You're listening to The Front Porch Show. Some shows are niche shows, talking about specific topics. Others, shows about nothing. This show is the show about everything. On The Front Porch Show, we'll talk about current events, some news, a little bit of politics, along with a whole lot of life. Welcome to our Front Porch. 1-402-799-1811. We are literally up at the crack of dawn, watching the sunrise out the Front Porch studio windows here. Got Tombstone off to one side, Ozzy off to the other, and just Jeff, who's identifying as Karen today, on the other side.
Well, if I'm going to identify as Karen, then I want to speak to your manager.
I mean, look,
he is the man.
Yeah,
we don't judge here, Karen.
Yes,
we
do.
just
We do.
Slightly.
That's quite literally your job description. By the way.
We totally do.
The thing is, I can just put just Jeff / Karen on the paychecks, and it'll be fine.
Yes.
Yeah, it'll be fine because I haven't seen a paycheck yet.
Paychecks.
So
wait, you guys don't get paychecks?
Here's the deal, folks.
Must be what happens when you show up to almost every show.
Send an email to this show or a text and have autocorrect screw you over, because somehow it turned, I don't even know what word it was. It turned it into Karen. And now here we are. I am Karen for the week.
You are? Well,
yes.
Might not just be for the week. Depends on what you choose, Jeff. Depends on what you want to identify.
How dare you judge me?
It is the word that is super similar of late. So apparently, if you have a northern Michigander accent, it turns into Karen.
Well, it wasn't voice to text. It was just literally trying to text. And I said, they were joking about being late to start. And I said, now I want to intentionally be late. And it literally changed the word late to Karen. So,
so he wanted to intentionally be Karen.
Apple
happy to
Predict
oblige.
is not doing great.
The algorithms are not in your favor, man.
Guys, I want to start this. I want to start the show on a big note. Like, have you guys noticed that things have gotten very, very weird in the world in the last 4 years since late 2015?
Well, kind of.
No.
Kind of.
Every moment I spend with you guys, I realize how weird the world is.
I think it started when Donald Trump came down the escalator at Trump Tower, just like on that Simpsons episode.
Ooh, Donald Queen.
Ever since then, it's gotten weirder and weirder and weirder.
I know people talked about it. Has anyone ever fully analyzed the ridiculous predictive element of The Simpsons?
People have
ever Googled?
No, people have talked about it, but has anyone just sat back and admired the insanity that was how accurate that clip was? I don't know.
Lots of YouTube channels do that. Yeah. No, yeah. Seriously, it's an amazing thing.
There's a blogger I read called, his name is Venkatesh Rao. He's an Indian guy, and he calls this era the Great Weirding, which I think is a very apt term. So this week, as part of the ongoing Great Weirding process, Kanye West has released a Christian album that appears to be actually Christian, which has kind of blown all of us away here.
That is definitely part of the Great Weirding. Yes.
Yeah. So Kanye was kind of off the rails there for a while, because remember he had the episode where he interrupted Taylor Swift when she was receiving that award. I don't remember where it was. Do you remember where it was?
No.
Nah,
you know the one I'm talking about.
Set of awards, right? But yes, he jumped up on stage and stole the mic from her.
He was intoxicated. It was not a good look.
Well lubricated.
And he's been in psychiatric treatment since then. He's had a lot of stuff going on, and then he started showing up in the media saying strange things, like Christian sounding things. Like, hey, Jeff, you were telling me about something you saw. Which, do you watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians? That's an unanswered question.
That was you mentioned it. And it was
I saw the news article shared where it was saying he told Kim Kardashian to wear told his wife, to wear less revealing clothes or whatever. And so they had a clip from an episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians in the news article where this was found or whatever. I thought I put it on the show board, but maybe I didn't.
You may have. The show board got rearranged. I didn't see, which is, Aaron, the last thing I heard was we're opening with Kanye, which is why I didn't know.
No, it's okay. We'll do Hobby Horses next.
What? Who's Hobby Horse?
Because that's
nobody cares about the hobby horses. Also, Tombstone doesn't listen to us.
Tombstone doesn't listen to us, apparently.
No, I don't listen.
The Hobby Horse Revolution. You know what a hobby horse is, right?
It's not a 3-hour podcast.
You know
it's a 2-hour podcast.
2 hours plus or minus a little bit.
Maybe. Kanye
I know what a hobby horse is. It's like a horse you ride, right?
Yeah. Like,
right.
So
you don't want to know what it is. Let's stick with Kanye here.
Can we pivot back to Kanye already before?
We'll talk about that later.
Okay. So all that to say, Kanye has been giving interviews and saying strange things. Oh, Jeff, you're going to tell us about Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
Yes.
I told you that there was an article that I read that had a clip.
An article?
Oh.
Yes. That's where we got off on the show board. I don't know if you remember this.
What are your thoughts on that again?
You don't watch the CW, I take it?
Absolutely not.
I haven't watched it in a really long time.
We don't even get it here. We can't get any stations down here.
So, and then yesterday, the album released. It's called Jesus is King, and I think all of us except Jeff listened to it.
Truth.
Jeff slept to it.
I listened to parts of it. I fell asleep while listening to it. So
it's not really good sleep.
Apparently it is.
Apparently it is.
I was tired. So
what are your opinions on it then, Karen?
Like I said, I fell asleep about 2 songs in, so have not developed a lot of feelings on it.
It is so strange. I remember doing in college during a summer school thing that I did because I was so bad at English. One of the research things that we had to do was on Kanye West. And this was. Did I stutter about being bad at English?
And that's what I'm saying. It's an
Jeff
is,
has
not a was.
Daggers out this morning.
Anyway, so this was back in 2009, 2008, I guess.
10 years ago, which
something like that.
We're all old.
And so I remember.
Old.
I know. So I remember looking into him. We had to listen to a couple of his songs and stuff like that, and he was legitimately really, really, really good at writing.
Yeah,
like his syntax, the whole way of everything that he does was masterful.
Well, I mean, if you're studying a rapper for English class, then maybe "diz" is the right word there. I don't know.
But anyway, his knowledge of the English language is very good. He's actually extremely good at what he does. And this new album is just completely flip-flopped from what I remember studying about him. And
so you're saying he's a terrible writer now?
What ways? Yeah.
Is he still a good writer, or is the content different?
The content is drastically different, obviously. The writing is still very good, but it's completely different from the album that I remember listening to.
Do you remember what album that was?
I honestly don't. I wasn't happy about having to listen to it.
You're a good Christian boy.
Right. So I wasn't really happy about having to listen to it, but it was a required thing for the college that I was summer school that I was doing. But it's completely turned on its head from one to the other. The content is clean, which is extremely strange. There's nothing in this new album that I wouldn't let my kids listen to. Not that I'm going to let my kids listen to Kanye West, but
right.
it's right, but it's a complete 180. So yeah. I don't know how I feel about that because it's so strange.
Yeah.
And I still can't wrap my head around, is this actually something that's real, or is this just marketing ploy?
Is it a gimmick?
Right.
So, right. You know what was interesting to me, and this to me lends credence to whatever is going on? There's no prosperity gospel in the album. Prosperity gospel is really common among wealthy people.
I was fully expecting that.
That find some sort of Christianity in their life, or they come to some sort of, and there's nothing in there about it. It's actually, he acknowledges his hedonism and his wealth, and he repudiates the hedonism. I'm going to say he repudiates his wealth. We may not see that, which is fine, but there's a turning away. He definitely does not believe he is the same person that he was 2 years ago.
So I've seen some people blaming that on his quote unquote mental illness.
Yeah. I get that. That.
Yeah, in the circles he originally
might have
ran
something
in.
to do with it.
Well, like a lot of people
I also think it's entirely possible that his lifestyle was contributing to his emotional instability.
Yeah.
So
it's
I don't really know much about Kanye, but he's never seemed like a very stable person to me. He may still not be, and that's okay. But he seems to be working very hard to figure out where he wants to be as a person, and he's approaching it in a theological sense, which I think is amazing.
And kind of in like reading some of the articles about it and following it, I mean, I think I'd agree with you, Tombstone, that it's got to be something more real. Like, well, I think we all thought when it first kind of came out, oh, Kanye is a Christian now. He's going to get together with these evangelical leaders, and you're expecting like Beth Moores or the Joel Osteens and like, you know, the people that Trump says, you know, because Trump's made the same claim, right? Like all these evangelical leaders have come out to try to win his base and have said, oh, he's a Christian. Yes. But what was Trump's comments in all that about being a Christian? Somewhere in there, he has said that he's never needed to ask forgiveness for anything.
Right.
You know,
right.
And he still embraces and owns everything he's ever been about. Right. Whereas Kanye, you see a complete like 180. And again, you could pull some stunts and say some things for publicity, but when he's starting to tell, like when he is, because he's talked about how his life was just a wreck, and I think he's even talked a little bit about the wealth and how basically before he was just living for the fame and the wealth. And now it's different. And he talked about how pornography had messed with his life in the one article I was seeing, and tied it back to stuff he was experiencing even as a kid from his father. And then you know, there's video of him telling his wife Kim Kardashian that she's not going to wear a revealing outfit to some awards show, which is basically all she's known for, right? Is just wearing revealing outfits,
right?
Or having sex on camera. Yeah. And so like in the fact that he's doing this stuff in this era where you know, he can say he's a Christian, he can say he now gives more money to the poor, and he can swear less, and everyone will be cool with that. But the minute he starts telling a woman in this era that she should probably cover her body up, like, that's just a recipe
dangerous
for him.
Territory there.
For his fans, that's dangerous territory.
Squishy on that too.
And so those are signs for me that it's real, I think.
Yeah. Can we read a couple of the lyrics? Are we allowed to do that?
Yeah, we can read lyrics. I want to real quick before we do that. I want to go to a video that I stumbled across last night. This was him on Kimmel last night.
Kimmel. Okay, awesome.
This was Kimmel last night.
I haven't watched it yet.
And so 7 minutes long. I'm not playing the whole thing, but this was kind of a real, like, I turned this on, and so Kanye has always looked very bitter, very mean, very thug.
He's got kind of resting bee face.
Right.
And he doesn't have that anymore, guys.
Interesting.
Like, he looks, his eyes, like his whole mannerism, it's Kanye, but he's different. It's
Before
bizarre.
You go into that, I do want to say one thing. This album is still pretty egocentric. Like, it's still about Kanye. It's not really about God per se, but there is a lot of God in it.
With saying that though, I found that it kind of is the typical because the thing I remember about the other album that he did was that it was very expressive of how he felt.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one of the things that I find about not rappers in particular, but maybe rappers in particular, is that they go so much more into their emotions and how it's feeling and how this is changing their lives, rather than, you know, other things which are songs about almost not euphoria, but you know what I mean, like thoughts of happiness or love or whatever else.
It's so almost like they're just having a lot of therapist session in their music. Like they're just spilling
they're expressing exactly how they feel. So that's what I found more of how it is, rather than it being like a praise and worship album.
Right. It's definitely not that.
Right. It's a guy it's a guy of desperation, and he's just kind of pouring out his heart, which is super weird because it's just weird.
Man, it's a little bit Ecclesiastes is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's Kanye on Kimmel surprising. I guess he showed up in Brooklyn to surprise Kimmel or something. Who knows? None of that stuff is surprising, but whatever. Here's the clip.
Now we have Christian innovation in our time. There was a time when the Medici family and all the greatest artists did work for the church, and now it seems like all the best designs and everything have this adult edge to it. And I have a family. I have 4 children. I've been married for 5 years, and the perspective. Because you asked me a question last year, did having a daughter change my life? And I've completely turned around from what my perspective was last year to where it is now. And I feel like there's so few individuals in a position like mine to be able to give their opinion and stand up and say that this is what family is about. And I feel that God is using me and using the choir and using my family to show off, because it's like all these things. How many things in your life where it's like this isn't in service for God, but it seems like you're going to get more out of it. This is where you're going to get the better job, better cars, all this. But we're in complete service to God. And the business is thriving.
You feel born again, Kanye? You feel would you consider yourself to be a Christian music artist now?
I'm just a Christian everything.
I'm like,
do you hear the discomfort in the like when that initial "Are you born again?" question comes out? It sounds like it's like a joke. Like I'm just going to roll with this into a joke. But then I think Kimmel takes it a little seriously. He offers the question up for Kanye to respond.
So Kanye nodded 3 times when that question was asked. He never stepped back from it. He was like, yeah.
And so I think Kimmel rolled with it. Kimmel gave him the chance, and when he's like, "I'm a Christian everything," like all of a sudden it went from like "we're cheering because you've been married for 5 years" or whatever to like you can almost hear the like, "Oh, I want to cheer and clap, but he sounds serious. So now what do I do with this?" Like because the audience at these shows is just like anti-Christian, anti-conservatism, anti everything supposedly Kanye is going to be about now.
I think the most interesting thing to me is he points to having daughters as when his life started to change. I think that is so interesting to me. It is very difficult to be a hedonist, a modern pagan, especially on the West Coast in Hollywood, when you have daughters that need protecting. Right. You know what I'm saying? If you're gonna do any kind of a decent job at it, you can't look at the world the same way. You can't do it.
Right. You say that,
especially
knowing tons of them do
yourself.
It all the time.
They do.
He is one of the few that's actually stopped and paused and thought about it.
I guess I shouldn't say. Obviously a lot of people don't make the connection, but I'm not surprised at all. But that was his pivoting moment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it's. Yeah. I definitely agree with you. Like, if anything was going to get his attention, that seems to be like the thing, Yeah.
Yeah.
I was super concerned the whole time that he was doing this church service thing, and I'm still a little bit hesitant about the whole church service thing.
Yeah.
But
same.
I was real nervous because he started the church service thing, said he was producing an album. I thought this whole church service thing was going to be this marketing ploy to lead up to some heretical,
just horrendous album,
horrendous album.
Right,
and that didn't happen. I guess I'm offended for myself. I'm offended for myself for thinking that way.
I don't think so, because I think you've also got to be. So you've got to be, I don't know, to steal the phrase, wise as serpent, harmless as doves, whatever. Like, based on the man's record, to be skeptical along those lines is not a bad thing, and I don't think it's anything you've got to be ashamed of.
If you look at all of his stuff that he's produced up until now, all of it has been extremely secular. Like he's never had
and you've
anything
seen
where it's been remotely like this.
And you've seen zero fruit. Like you've just seen him saying things, but you've seen really zero evidence of it. And so to be skeptical, I think is wise. Yeah. Until now, we're starting to see evidence of it. Now, you don't just go all in. Like you said, the church service thing is very concerning because if he's a Christian, he is a brand new Christian, very new to it. Right. He's got some weird random influences from some very kind of traditional conservative influences on his life to some more like kind of out there modern evangelical influences. It's kind of all over the board. And so you don't know exactly where he's at. And so for him to start just leading church services and bringing together church services as a brand new, I mean, take some guy in your church who, has come a few times, brand new believer. Should he be running a new church of his own next week? Like, no.
I'm gonna go with a probably not on that. I mean, that's been one of my biggest. That's been one of my biggest concerns, but I mean, let's see where it goes.
Let's see where it goes.
Yeah,
exactly.
Can you knock him for his enthusiasm? That's the thing.
No, you can absolutely not knock him for his enthusiasm, and he's got a platform that allows him to put a lot out there quickly and reach a large audience, and so he's embracing that and using that platform.
Tombstone, final thought. You had something.
I wanted to read some lyrics, but it's okay. I'll keep.
Well, let's come back to that. Let's come back to that.
All right.
And then a poll. Who's more likely to be a Christian, Kanye West or President Trump?
Joel Osteen.
Definitely not.
We're back, guys. I did not think we were going to spend 30 minutes on Kanye West. But I mean, look, this is so weird.
It's gloriously weird. That's what I love about it.
It is.
I thought that was the purpose of the show, was to talk about this stuff.
It's the perfect way to wrap up 2019 with the weirdingest weird stuff there is.
Okay, Tombstone.
There's
weird stuff.
There's plenty of 2019.
Read us some of these lyrics, because these lyrics.
Yes.
I made the comment yesterday to Alyssa.
That one is so intriguing.
I made the comment yesterday to Alyssa that I listen to a lot of different Christian music. I listen to worship albums. I listen to even the fringe groups that are Christian, but they're not producing Christian music necessarily. And
like Lifehouse, supposedly, or something like that?
I was thinking more like 1,000 Foot Crutch and what's their
There's just
name?
so little new rock that I enjoy.
So anyways, my point behind that was I heard more gospel and more solid doctrine in this than I have heard in some worship albums.
It is not C.S. Lewis, but it's
no,
there. It's up front.
But it's amazing. So read us some of these lyrics.
Ben, what did you want me to read?
Because we can't play.
What's that? The Chick-fil-A one. Whichever one that is.
Closed on
Sunday.
The words Chick-fil-A are not in it anywhere. It's just called Closed on Sunday.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, they are.
It's in there. It's at the beginning.
I fell asleep before that part. Then.
So when
I found that one really interesting because of how extremely controversial Chick-fil-A is becoming at this moment in time.
Yes.
I think we get into that. Like one of the stories we have is that we're getting into is Chick-fil-A in England still.
Which have you seen the Babylon Bee article about that? Just absolute bull. But anyway,
this appears to just be about taking the Sabbath. That's all. Right. That seems to be all it's about. I'll read it. So, closed on Sunday. You, my Chick-fil-A, hold the selfies, put the gram away. Talking about Instagram. Talking about your phone, really. Get your family, y'all hold hands and pray. When you got daughters, keep them safe. This is an interesting line. Watch out for vipers. Don't let them indoctrinate. You're my number one. What with the lemonade? Which is
solid order, Kanye. Yes. Solid order.
I'm envisioning I'm envisioning some little white chick in a Chick-fil-A in LA Valley taking this Kanye West order at the window.
So
and like,
just wait till like you start hearing this album in Chick-fil-A. That's going to be really funny.
Because they play like Christian music albums all the time, just without
Christian
the lyrics.
music in Chick-fil-A.
They just play,
Here's a few other ones. The same song. Raise our sons, train them in the faith through temptations. Make sure they're wide awake. Follow Jesus, listen and obey. No more living for the culture. We're nobody's slave. There's a lot going on there. Stand up for my home, even if I take this walk alone. I bow down to the King upon the throne. My life is His. I'm no longer my own. I pray to God that He'll strengthen my hand. They will think twice stepping onto my land. I draw the line that's written in the sand. Try me and you will see that I ain't playing. Now back up off my family. Move your hands. I got my weapons in the spirit's land. I, Jezebel, don't even stand a chance. Jezebel, don't even stand a chance. That's interesting.
So Aaron, what are the chances of getting Kanye West on the show?
Seeing as how there's a bunch of other shows who want him on the show, want him on their shows, I'm going to go with probably no.
Send that email out.
Statistically 0.
Oh, you think I haven't sent the email out already? I've sent the email out.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sure you've tweeted him.
Would you like to come on the world's smallest podcast?
So,
along with other 500,000 people.
So listen to these lyrics, guys.
Yes.
This is from God Is.
Okay.
Everything that I felt, praise the Lord. Worship Christ with the best of your portions. I know I won't forget all He's done. He's the strength in this race that I run. Every time I look up, I see God's faithfulness, and it shows just how much He is miraculous. I can't keep it to myself. I can't sit here and be still. Everybody I tell till the world is healed. King of kings, Lord of lords, all the things He has in store, from the rich to the poor, all are welcome through that door. You won't ever be the same when you call on Jesus' name. Listen to the words I'm saying. Jesus saved me. Now I'm sane. And I know God is the force that picked me up. I know Christ is the fountain that filled my cup. I know God is alive. Yeah, He's opened my vision, giving me a revelation. This ain't about blank religion. There's a little bit of Kanye in the song. Just brought a revolution. All the captives are forgiven. Time to break down all the prisons. Every man, every woman, there's freedom from addiction. Jesus, you have my soul. Sunday service on a roll. All my idols, let them go. All the demons, let them know. This is a mission, not a show. This is my eternal soul. This is my kids. This the crib. This my wife. This my life. This my God-given right. Thank you, Jesus. Won the fight.
Not that I watch a lot of Joel Osteen, but you're right. There's probably more gospel there in those two songs than you will hear if you attend Joel Osteen's church for a year straight.
Yeah. I really went in the back of my mind when I started this, I really expected to get #blessed religion.
Right.
Yeah.
It ain't there.
Health,
wealth, not there.
Prosperity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All
of that
not
is like
prosperity
there.
gospel there.
That is acknowledgement of a broken world, broken people, broken culture, and the need for Christ to save you out of it. That's all. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And that's what's so crazy. That's why it's like I still can't figure out how exactly I feel about any of this because I keep waiting for something to drop.
Yeah.
You're waiting for that
guys.
Gotcha moment,
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like the next rap album full of vulgar language to drop, the next sex tape to drop, whatever it is. You're just waiting for that next thing that's like, this was all fake.
Tombstone, can you read Hands On, the lyrics of that? That was the most impactful song that I heard. And I was like, I felt like crap after listening to that.
Yes. Because that's the one I think I texted you guys about while I was listening to it.
Like,
read that one because I'm not quite to where Aaron is on this song. I don't understand why it's so awesome. I like the Chick-fil-A one personally.
This is Chick-fil-A one's great.
Well, you can't go wrong with Chick-fil-A.
So here we go. Cut out all the lights. He's a light. Got pulled over. See the brights. What you doing on the street at night? Wonder if they're going to read your rights. 13th Amendment, 3 strikes, talking about prison system, black people in the prison system. Made a left when I should have made a right. Told God last time on life. Told the devil that I'm going on a strike. Told the devil when I see him on sight. I've been working for you my whole life. Told the devil that I'm going on a strike. I've been working for you my whole life. Nothing worse than a hypocrite. Change. He ain't really different. He ain't even try to get permission. Asked for advice and they dissed him. Said I'm finna do a gospel album. What have you been hearing from the Christians? They'll be the first one to judge me. Make it feel like nobody loved me. They'll be the first one to judge me, feeling like nobody loved me. Told people God was my mission. What have you been hearing from the Christians? They'll be the first one to judge me, make it feel like nobody loved me. It goes on in that vein. But he has the line, what have you been hearing from the Christians in that song? I think it's 5 or 6 times, which is a very interesting line. It's like people in his life questioning the influence that he's getting. Like, are you sure you want to go down this road? Like, just like what Jimmy Kimmel did in that interview. Like, are you sure this is what you want to commit to in front of everybody?
So listen to this. So listen to this portion right here. And I think this is some of what we were talking about maybe at the end of the last segment. He says, so he talks about, I can feel it when I write, point of living in the right. So he's talking about living in the right. And he says, if they only see the wrongs, never listen to the songs. Just to listen is a fight, but you booked me for the fight. It's so hard to get along if they only see the slight. From the love of religion, what have you been hearing from the Christians? And then they'll be the first to judge me, make it seem like nobody loves me. Mm-hmm. Interesting comment on apparently immigration.
Look,
I'm not
right
trying to lead you to visas.
Yes.
But if I try to lead you to Jesus.
I don't think that's immigration. I think that's credit cards, Jeff.
Or credit cards. Okay, that could be that. Yeah.
That's it. That's where it
is. That's it. You're right. You're actually right. It's not prosperity, guy. I'm not trying to lead you to visas, but if I try to lead you to Jesus, we get called half believers. Only halfway read Ephesians.
Like, he's acknowledging his immaturity.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
This is guys. This is so bizarre.
I've never seen anything
this is beautiful.
Very laid bare out. Everything's laid out. Everything.
Yeah.
It's like his emotions, his feelings, his knowledge of his immaturity, and I don't know. I don't know.
Okay,
So we were talking in the break, because I know we've been on this forever. One of the unfortunate sides to this, right, is he's been all over the place before this as part of his like total tumble into despair, which ultimately led him to seeking something
like
real, which led him to maybe his conversion.
This is like an Ecclesiastes story, I think.
Yeah, it kind of seems, there's a lot of woe is me, and then coming out of it, Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, do you guys think it's going to be conflated with like his political side of things, where he's done some weird stuff? He's worn the Make America Great Again hat. He's met with Trump, I believe, and done some stuff with Trump. Talked about Trump and gotten some flack for that. I mean, do you think that at least the media, things like that, are going to try to conflate these two?
Without a doubt.
It's possible.
They're going to try, and I don't know if they're going to be successful.
Yeah. Honestly, just the gut sense I'm getting is Kanye probably doesn't even care about that. He's a man on the move.
Let's be honest that the cultural Christians who voted for Trump, most of them aren't going to buy into what Kanye is selling right now.
You're probably right there, and I think the other part, what you might be seeing with him being more open to Trump and stuff, is as he's kind of lost himself and then started to find faith, he's come out of the cult of leftism. Because let's be honest, some of these hardcore beliefs on the left that a lot of the celebrities buy into are essentially a cult. Like, you have to believe this way. They have their practices, they have their beliefs. If you don't believe in that, then you're anathema, you're some evil unbeliever. Like, it's essentially the actions of a cult, whether it's on climate change or abortion or something like that. And so as he fell away from that cultic belief, he opened up more to, I have certain things I want to get done, and I'll work with anybody to get them done. So if I think the current president's doing something that supports the things I support, I'll do it. If I think this person over here on the left is supporting things I support, I'll do it. And I think that's where maybe you started to see some of his political change that people were initially, calling just part of his insanity, mental problems.
And
it's because
don't forget, there may be another angle here as well, because Kim, his wife, didn't she finish her law degree in California and get admitted to the bar?
I have no idea. Are you serious?
About that. I wasn't
because
following
she's been working with the Trump administration on prison reform.
I did know that.
Yeah, I missed.
I'm pretty sure she was admitted
I didn't
to the
realize
California
she was
bar.
working on. I didn't realize she was working on law degree. I know she'd been working with the Trump administration on some stuff. But what I'm saying is people, what they saw as like his insanity, because all of a sudden he was opening up and working across the aisle, might have become because he actually just found religion, and in that found common sense, and just got out of one cult and didn't get into another, thankfully.
So Kim Kardashian is she is not going to law school. She is studying for the bar. She's planning on planning on taking the bar exam. So she hasn't done it yet.
So here's something that I found interesting is she hasn't spoken out against this yet.
Mm-hmm.
And that is weird, and she has had every opportunity to do so.
Now, she's definitely opposed to parts of it, because again, as we were talking about that article, I think we opened with it. There's an article out where there's a clip from the show Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and this was part of the stuff that started convincing me his conversion was actually real, as it's him sitting there with Kim Kardashian telling her that she's not going to, she's his wife, he loves her, and he really does not want her to wear revealing outfits to some awards show. And she's like pushing back against that, and like the whole family is like telling him he's crazy, and she's like, you told me that you liked me and you think I'm beautiful, I should be able to do this, whatever. And he's like, no, you're my wife, that's for me, that's not for everybody to see, so she's definitely got some pushback now that it's starting to get in on her claim to fame. I guess it'll
be interesting to see how this affects that show. Not that I watch it.
Jeff, we're gonna delegate you to watch it.
Yes,
that's your job
Karen.
for the next 2
I'm gonna need a bigger paycheck.
Basically, anybody with crazy eyes named Karen can watch that show.
Double Jeff's pay, hazard pay for this project.
Cube my pay.
Nickels.
But yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see how this affects certain things, and to see whether or not they are gonna have a large falling out with Hollywood.
Yeah.
And then with the world, because I mean,
with each other,
they're already saying
with each other, right, or with each other, yeah.
They're saying that Kanye is losing fans by the droves right now.
Yet he still has, I think it was like 3 million, 5 million on Twitter or something like that.
Yeah,
I looked up the thing.
You don't.
Yeah, but
you don't do this if you are trying to build your brand.
But it's know what though. Is it going to be something that they get replaced with all of the Christians that are going to be coming onto it?
It probably won't be a 1-for-1 replacement, because I'm still just not a rap guy, no matter how real it is. I've never even listened to Toby Mac, really. I just don't. It's not.
And it'll be interesting to see where, I guess, if he continues with this, he falls on that spectrum of Christian music, because there's a lot of Christian music that a lot of Christians don't like, because it's not the Jesus loves everybody, the feel good, health, wealth, Christian gospel music that makes you feel good.
Within a year, you could be hearing Kanye West on K-Love stations across the country. I thought it was crazy when we had Brian Luttrell, or who's the one? Yeah, who's the one that's a Christian singer that was a Backstreet Boy?
Yeah.
And now we could be hearing Kanye West on K-Love stations across the U.S.
It's so strange. I bet that's going to be happening really soon.
The great weirding.
We live in the great weirding, guys.
Yes, it's wonderful. It's glorious.
It's weird.
They cut my beard and forced me to eat it.
Could be a crackhead that got hold to the wrong stuff.
We're back, guys. Ozzy, Tombstone, Karen, and myself. All chilling out.
Just Karen.
Jeff, you still haven't changed your tag in Appear In.
That's because he hasn't had a Snicker bar yet.
I'm on a mobile version of it, and I don't know that I can change it. It's not giving me the option. My Appear In stream is coming through my iPad.
Ah, interesting.
So that I don't take up processor space for
technology, guys.
The Mumble app.
Your computer is so weak that it can't handle Mumble and Appear In at the same time.
Wait, is this your computer from college?
No, I'm on like 3 computers past then.
Yeah,
at least.
but it's running.
Functionally, does it matter?
The problem is it's running Windows 98.
Oh no, it's definitely not running.
No. It's running Windows 98 SE.
XP.
It's definitely running stinking Windows 7 or whatever, which still doesn't have any support.
Windows support runs out in like 60 days, something like that.
Wow.
And all support does is make you update continually, as Mathis found out last week.
So you don't get a freaking malware infection and lose all your data. That's why.
Yep. Or you could just buy a Mac and not have that
There's
problem
no data on this computer that anyone wants. Let me tell you.
Do you log into your bank account with it?
I now have Norton Secure VPN on all my crap. Signed up with LifeLock.
So
I don't know if we have a.
I was
sponsorship by LifeLock, but just use radio code TFPS and you can get a 10%.
No, just kidding. Unfortunately, we do not have a sponsorship.
Unfortunately, LifeLock does not.
Jeff, you're gonna get us a cease and desist.
Yeah, I know, right?
Stop it.
However, yes, I'm using their services because some of my information was snagged at some point.
He's actually running McAfee.
So I find
actually LifeLock and McAfee are their joint company, or no, Norton. I guess it's Norton.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah.
Norton was the hotness back in like 1997.
Yep. You know it.
Back when nobody knew what in the world they were doing, they probably didn't actually do anything.
You got the CDs in the mail for the free trial of Norton or McAfee.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was also back when you got the AOL CDs for the internet. You can have 600 free minutes of internet, and I was like, "Holy cow! It's 600! How many is that?"
And your parents just gave them to you to use as a frisbee. You know?
Yes.
Okay, can we take a tangent here? I have no idea what we're getting ready to talk about. What is your favorite memory of early internet days?
Favorite?
What do you mean favorite?
The noise. The noise.
I was going to say the pretty.
Yes.
The noise.
And
the noise
picking up the phone. Someone picks up the phone and then you want to use the phone, so you stay on the phone so the modem hangs up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or you get a phone call and then the modem hangs up.
Never had that happen.
Yes.
Never had that happen.
I think you had to actually pick it up.
I think
if you got like an incoming call, it would throw you off the internet.
See, we couldn't get incoming calls.
I don't remember that.
We couldn't get incoming calls.
I have a quick story to talk about how weird.
Get it, but that's how you knew that it was that you were getting.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay. When we moved to South Africa in September of 2000. Okay, back then there was not really VoIP was not really a thing because everything was still 56K over there. And here you could get DSL, but it wasn't very common. Anyways, so we had 56K at our house in South Africa, and there was no video chat or anything. It was just email. So, and if you wanted to make an international call back then, you had to dial up a queue. It would reserve you a spot on the satellite, and then the service would call you back when your spot was ready on the satellite. And you could call, and there was like a second delay on the conversation, or probably more like half a second each way, but it came out to about a second, to talk to whoever you want to talk to in the United States. Okay, my sister called me this week from Greece using Facebook video chat, and it was, aside from bad signal, it was flawless, but like the technology works great. Yeah. It just blows my mind. 20 years. 20 years. Again, I feel old as dirt.
What are your thoughts on like those Facebook? Because we're legitimately thinking about this for my parents, getting the Facebook
portal,
whatever the chat. I guess
it's a portal, isn't it?
That's exactly what it is. Right. Because we're thinking about one of those. From
the reality is, any technology geared toward boomers, bless their hearts, will probably be successful.
I mean, Karen thinks it's a great idea.
I'm just curious.
No, I'm not the one that has Alexas all over my
first
house.
Of all,
so hopefully I'm on the
Karen
speaker so she starts talking.
Karen is a classic Gen X archetype, not a boomer archetype. I just need to point that out.
Yes, that's very good.
Jeff,
yes.
Ben, to answer your question, I haven't really seen them. I'm vaguely aware of the concept. I don't know if it's much better than a regular computer.
It's basically just an iPad that's permanently stuck in Skype.
Doesn't your dad already have a computer though? For all his stuff?
No. Yeah, we do, but you got to understand. Like we live 12 hours from my parents, so we don't go visit often.
Skype is free.
It is so much. Skype isn't as good though. Like, I mean, it's okay, but you have to understand we have Skype on. Right, but those are on small applications. Portal has got this thing where you can hook it up to your TV without going around and having to hook up a computer to your TV.
I was going to say, have you seen the size of the new iPads? Those aren't exactly small.
One of my kids.
Yeah,
but you're also paying $800 to $1,200 for an iPad.
The TV thing is,
right. And that's what's got me is I think it's cool because my kids would be able to really talk to their grandparents and get a better interactive experience, I think. But the only problem is it's like $150 a pop for one of those things.
I thought you lived in Jersey to get away from your parents.
That worked.
I mean, that's the beauty of the internet nowadays.
You want to talk to the grandkids? Pony up some cash.
I mean, that's how
their grandparents. You know, they would drop that money in a heartbeat for Christmas just to talk to the grandkids.
That's how
I would never ask my parents for that. I would wait for them to come up with it on their own.
That's how my kids talk to their grandparents. All four of them. I mean, it's all video chat.
Even the ones that live next door. No, I'm just,
makes it easier
we don't let
that way.
Actually see them. They can only video.
We haven't seen them in years.
Just to clarify, we don't have grandparents who live next door.
It was just a joke.
We're taking a vacation at Grandma's house next door.
I just want to make sure that the front porch audience doesn't think I'm as sadistic as I probably
am. That takes all the fun out of it.
It's true. No, I mean, look, guys, the internet. Behold the internet. We are here because of the internet. I mean, we're reporting in from 4 different parts of the country onto one feed, and it's amazing.
That is true.
Do you remember? I remember in 1998, maybe 99, when they first started having videos out on the internet, like when YouTube first started.
YouTube didn't start till 2006, 2007.
Yeah.
Oh, was it that long?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
I don't know what was before YouTube. I assume there was something, but I mean, I feel like every video clip I saw before YouTube, I saw via email. It was emailed to me. MP2 or MP3.
No. I distinctly remember this being on the internet. It took forever to load it.
2005.
But I don't remember what it was.
2005 for YouTube.
Wow. All right.
But yeah, anyway. I mean, it's crazy. This is absolutely crazy.
All right, I derailed the segment. What did you want to talk about, Aaron? I'm sorry.
Oh well, speaking of the internet, guys,
the things you can find on the internet.
Way to transition there.
People find inspiration in a lot of places, and this guy found inspiration on his dog's groin.
Phrasing.
He did though.
Are we not doing phrasing anymore?
I mean, he did. Though.
What?
He did.
Wow.
I mean,
there was a lot more subtle way to walk into that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say found inspiration on his dog.
I just figured we should
just always count on the front porch show to word something in the most awkward.
That is Tombstone at the front porch show.
I have a question for you. Okay, I have a question for Tombstone related to this story.
Oh boy!
So you go out. Yes. And you adopt a dog. Let's say you go down to the Humane Society down there by the airport there, and you adopt a dog for your children. Okay, you bring the dog home.
Are they always by an airport?
As you examine, no, I just know the one near him is by the airport.
It is by the airport. He's correct.
So you bring him home. You're playing with the dog. You see that for some weird reason,
some cruel person.
The cruel former owners have put this weird little tattoo on the inside of your dog's back leg.
Yep.
In solidarity with that dog, don't you think you'd go out and get that same tattoo on your bicep really large just to be in solidarity with that dog?
Because I'm not an idiot, and because I have owned dogs before, I would guess that a tattoo so I'm looking at the picture in that color in that location had some sort of veterinary purpose. Like our Dobermans had tattoos on the inside of the ear with their serial number.
Right. I find it interesting that you had your Doberman. Like, did you have them registered the same way you have your firearms registered due to the breed?
They were. Our Dobie was tagged. She was already tattooed when she came to us.
Gotcha.
Ooh. So whoever the breeder was did it for tracking purposes, which good for them.
Yeah.
I don't know if we would have done it, but it's like the same. It looks the same. It's like a really low grade, just like dot matrix type thing on the inside of the ear where you'd never notice it unless you had the ear pulled open or whatever.
So to describe this tattoo to our viewers, this tattoo is it's kind of a circle with then an arrow coming up at like a 45-degree angle off of it.
It's the male signal.
Yeah, it's the male symbol.
You're killing me. I was trying to describe it. Then we all know it's going to turn out to be the male symbol. Okay.
You were struggling, Karen.
But then there's a twist on the male symbol. Through the circle, there is a slash line. Through the circle. So this gentleman goes out and gets this giant tattoo of the male symbol with a slash line through the circle on his bicep because he's not bright enough to know that symbol means the dog has been fixed.
The dog is no longer a male.
If you look at the picture with the tattoo, you can see that the dog is fixed and missing the part of the anatomy that the circle symbolizes that's now been slashed out.
He is missing some man bits.
So now this dude is running around.
I've been waiting on the man bits all day.
With a giant neutered symbol on his bicep. So anytime he tries to flex on somebody like, I'm a man.
To me, it's just like the most millennial.
Like he's going to be flexing any day soon.
This is the most millennial thing I've seen in a long time.
Oh, it completely is.
So this story we found at a bunch of weird places. We can't quite track down that it's 100% true. There are photos.
It's probably from Reddit.
It is on Reddit. One of them's on Reddit.
By the way, Reddit is a cesspool. It's as bad as Twitter.
But we found this during the break, and this is hilarious.
It's hilariously awkward.
So we think we vote Tombstone to get that tattoo for the Front Porch Show in the future here.
I'll give Tombstone $500 if he gets that tattoo.
Dude,
can I get it really, really tiny?
No.
Yes, on the inside of your thigh.
No. Oh man.
So, I'm not going to be the one to confirm that.
I mean, they're up to 3 kids now, so maybe it's time to get the tattoo. I'm just saying.
No tattoos.
Actually, it's
I am tattoo free.
Needs that tattoo probably, but
I'm good.
I'm tattoo free because when the boogaloo kicks off, I don't want to have any identifying marks on my body.
Oh man!
Don't tell me you guys have never thought about this.
I'm gonna say I haven't gone that far into depth with it. No.
Well, you've never read Enemies Foreign and Domestic, so
it's not a bad idea. So
Aaron's like, I'm not saying anything.
I'm keeping quiet.
Aaron's just stuffing his face with breakfast and avoiding the topic.
Guys, my wife made pancakes. She made those pancakes.
Which reminds me, Aaron, I really miss your blueberry pancakes. Just saying.
Yeah, that's what these are.
That's not a metaphor. That's what I really miss.
Okay.
Anyways, are we at the end of the segment? We talked about tattoos.
Not yet.
We talked
We've
about
got another
internet modems making weird beeping noises.
We
We've got another dog story.
We might actually have less time because I completely forgot to start the timer.
It's okay. So. Share your other story, Jeff.
Do it.
So if we want to go from like insanity to maybe a feel good story, although who knows if this is a legit site either. But supposedly there was a toy fox terrier that was found 12 years and 1,100 miles away from where she went missing.
I'm calling no on this.
Who sent that?
Number one.
Aaron, where did you find that?
I may have stumbled across that on Facebook.
I did not even just hear what Jeff said because of that.
I'm sitting here crying so hard.
What the crap is happening?
You just got hijacked, man.
Oh, guys, the fact that our chat has a
Kanye West, the
chat
protector of
feature.
virginity.
Folks,
It's so funny.
don't do a show with these
It's
guys.
so funny. It's so funny.
All right,
It took me like 20 seconds for it to hit me, and then oh my gosh.
I got nothing.
Like, what in the world am I looking at? And then it hit me.
Just take it out. Take it out. I got nothing for you.
Got goose egg. Just take it out.
We'll be right back, guys.
Now, some of you might think I've been busy writing my memoirs. I'm not concerned about my memoirs. I'm concerned about my resume. Here's what I've got so far. Career objective, to stay president. But being realistic, I would consider an executive position with another country. Of course, I'd prefer to stay within the G8. I've been getting a lot of tips on how to write it, mostly from my staff. They really seem to be up on this stuff. They tell me I have to use the active voice with a resume. You know, things like commanded U.S. Armed Forces, ordered airstrikes, served 3 terms as president. Everybody embellishes a little. Designed, built, and painted bridge to 21st century. Supervised vice president's invention of the internet.
That last one.
Who remembers?
Hold on.
Who remembers Bridge to the 21st Century?
I barely do. Wasn't that? Didn't that have something to do with
That was like a very late 90s thing. I'm trying to remember where it came from.
Am I the only one that doesn't think that Bill Clinton could be a stand-up comedian in a blue dress doing that sketch?
Okay. Here's something funny. When I plug in Bridge to the 21st Century in Google, the first thing that comes up is an Onion article from 1997.
Wow.
I did not realize the Onion was that old.
Wow.
I didn't either. But the headline is Bridge to 21st Century Crap Forgotten.
That's
Offering
funny.
a bold new vision for post-1996 presidential election America, which is where it must have been coined. President Clinton unveiled a new plan Monday to forget about that Bridge to the 21st Century crap. I can't read the rest. It's not fit to read on here. That's kind of funny. So that must have been a 1996 campaign thing.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. November 4th, 1996 is the next hit.
Wow. Holy moly.
So,
I did not realize. I thought it was like maybe like around Facebook era it started coming out.
I want to take a moment and point out that the Babylon Bee has eaten the Onion's lunch.
Yes, it
has
has.
beat the Onion up and taken its lunch money.
Oh, definitely.
So going back,
I'm not sad about it.
Going back in that political time machine, do you guys remember the failed contract with America?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Republicans, we have a bad, I say they have a bad tendency to overreach. That's Ben, because you were a tiny baby in the 1990s.
This was 1994.
Same age as you, right?
No, you're 2 years younger than
2
I am,
years
right?
younger.
This was 1994.
Aren't you 30?
No.
He's at least 32.
32? Oh, you are the same age as I am.
I'm the baby.
So,
on the
yeah,
show.
You must not have watched as much network television as I did when I was a wee lad, which is probably what's wrong with me now.
I grew up on Garfield.
And that's what's wrong with it.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Although I did too. So
one of my earliest memories is watching Desert Storm on the television.
Yeah, man.
I
remember.
Okay, I remember one of my earliest memories was the OJ trial.
I remember Tear Down This Wall.
Oh, yes. I remember
There's
the
no
OJ.
way you
I do.
tear down this wall. Tear down this wall. Hold on, Aaron.
No, that was no.
Tear down this wall.
The math is lying.
June 1987 was when Reagan made that speech. There's no way you remember.
Okay, so I must remember 89 then when the wall got torn down. Okay, so I remember. Stop.
I watched a documentary.
You were like what, 5 months old in June of 87?
Okay. So I didn't realize that was 87. I remember like Desert.
You might have seen it play on the television.
Right. And so what I remember is seeing the walls get torn down.
Later time.
I remember seeing the walls get torn down and then Desert Storm happening.
I don't
after
remember.
That.
I watched the History Channel too.
So obviously I misremembered wrong, but
we'll let it slide just this once.
But yeah, no, I remember the wall being ripped down.
Next
Reagan's
Reagan's speech.
I caught that too, Ben. I caught
that too.
Reagan's speech being played,
or that you're named after Sir Edmund Hillary, or that you wrote a letter to NASA asking if you could become an astronaut.
Let's just be honest. It's a good thing I'm not running for president.
Hillary, why does Hillary make stuff up all the time?
Why does Elizabeth Warren make stuff up?
Why does Trump make stuff up?
Exactly. You can't.
Actually, I do know why Trump makes stuff up because he doesn't believe anybody is going to believe him.
Freedom.
Hillary expects to be believed. Yeah,
freedom of speech,
expects
man.
Us to believe her BS. That's the difference. Trump doesn't expect anybody to believe.
Freedom of speech, man. First Amendment. I mean, look, Elizabeth Warren sits there, says she's an Indian, which she's clearly not. I'm more cheeseburger than she is Indian, and I had a cheeseburger 2 days ago.
Yes, but the number of cheeseburgers you've had, they are permanently part of your arteries.
I had one, Jeff. One.
Are you 1,024th cheeseburger?
Well, so I did the calculation, and I'm like one.
I mean, that's like more than McDonald's, isn't it?
It was like a 1 pound cheeseburger. So doing the math here, 275th.
So you're more cheeseburger.
You are more.
I am more cheeseburger at this time than yeah.
But didn't you see Elizabeth Warren when she had her singing career back in the 90s? She did that.
But
Disney
she's
movie,
got high cheekbones.
Okay, and look, then Elizabeth Warren comes out.
She is white, Anglo-Saxon Protestant.
Elizabeth Warren comes out then, and she makes
Protestantism.
She lies about this whole. Oh, I was fired for getting pregnant.
Oh yes.
No one believes her.
And then she also make up a story about being sexually harassed as well?
I don't know. I'm not going there. I don't know.
I got nothing.
I will not speculate upon that.
She definitely had the pregnant one though.
But the pregnant one, I'm so sick of politics and lying. I'm sick and tired of it. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop.
I have a solution for you.
Avoid all politics and just listen to the Front Porch Show. Oh.
No, because we're definitely going to talk about politics on the Front Porch Show.
At least when we talk about it,
because that's like why I'm here.
That's my First Amendment right, man.
Listen,
you keep trying to tie it back to this article.
Is fun.
I feel you there.
It's not because of Tombstone and Jeff. It's because of Aaron and Ben.
No, it's actually very fun and informative with Tombstone and Jeff. It's just chaos.
Yeah,
with
it also puts me to sleep whenever I listen to it. It's like
and informative. Ben.
So we are going to bring you a hard-hitting political. Political.
All right, hit me hard.
That is more baby, solid than Aaron seeing the wall crash.
Oh my goodness! I'm never gonna live that down.
No, you're not, because you lied.
I didn't lie.
Neither is Karen.
Okay.
Our poor audience.
So this was the campaign for free speech did a poll.
Yes.
I'm not quite sure.
Who was the polled population?
The polled
What's
population
the campaign for free speech.
This is the.
I
don't know.
Did they survey a population of Jeffs? Because that would give very interesting results.
Or was it
would be very skewed?
Okay,
was it a polling population of Lauderbaugh?
They did a poll of 1,004 people, 502 female, 502 male. So
1,000 people.
So 1,000 people.
What campus did they go to?
No, there's 0 others here. Anyways, so the poll makes sense to me. The poll makes sense on why people would say this. 51% of Americans.
What's the poll?
What's the poll?
So this was a poll on free speech, and in order to figure out how vulnerable free speech protections are in the United States. And so the campaign for free speech is all about freedom of speech. They push free speech, right? Anyway, so they did a poll. 51% of Americans think that the First Amendment is outdated and should be rewritten.
I'm looking for the actual poll so I can see the actual poll questions.
I think in the first sentence.
There's a link. Oh, here we go. Click here for the full survey.
The full survey.
Right.
The full survey there.
Nothing happened.
Should have opened.
That's scary.
Should have opened a PDF.
All right, 40. So here is the question that he's about to give the statistics to. Question 1. The First Amendment, which provides the right of Americans to have free speech, was enacted more than 200 years ago. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? The First Amendment goes too far in allowing hate speech in modern America and should be updated to reflect the cultural norms of today.
So that's 51%.
I love the injunction of hashtag modern America, because
you know what,
modern America is so much more enlightened.
This is what ticks me off is I bet you money that none of them could actually state to you what exactly the First Amendment is in its entirety. So what they should have is they should have the First Amendment, and you're able to read through the First Amendment and then make a judgment call.
Well, and you guys see how
they make it sound like, oh, it's this really old thing that was 200 years old.
Yeah.
Do you think that it should be updated? Of course, people are going to say
you can
yes.
design a poll to get this what you want, and so that's my kind of trigger on that first question.
Are you
is that
But then
is
again,
that
we have people that are like getting their dog's tattoos and fully in face of Google and don't still have any clue what they're putting on their bodies.
So the way that it throws that 200 years out there, like that, I think that
right.
You know, just
that's an interesting.
Just like the Second Amendment, if you don't like it, amend it. Like,
right, work to get it fixed.
Nobody wants to do that.
Do this. Work to do that. Well, that's why we have it set up in our system so that you can amend things.
This is why we're a republic, and the republic is here set up to keep the idiot populace from doing stupid things.
It is
why
a
we
very
do not have mob rule.
Yeah, we've all been ingrained that democracy, and it's not really what the founders believed. Pure democracy is still a tyranny.
Yeah, it's just
a tyranny of the masses.
Of the masses.
And unfortunately, it's a lot of times a tyranny of the uneducated masses. And what's funny is that because it raises the hair on the back of the neck a little bit when you start talking about the public and needing some more informed people to make decisions, maybe independent of popular vote, because you take that about 2 steps further and you're at the progressive dream of only educated experts running everything.
Well, that's what we have already.
Free of everything. Well, because it's been pushed there. But I mean, you're at the Woodrow Wilson, that German school of thought that came over from Germany in the 1800s, early 1900s, where they all went to, all the rich politician aspiring people went to college over there, and that idea of
you guys gotta read
enlightened progressivism and the whole
Jeff, you need to go
there
read,
needs to be experts.
Go read An Open Letter to an Open-Minded Progressive. It is all about what you just talked about. So let me pivot on this real quick. It's talking about amendments. So I think this really brings us to talking about the tyranny of the majority. This really brings us to, I think, what the actual, not a lot of people are talking about it. Some people are, some liberals are talking about it, and conservatives are just reacting. Single biggest breakdown right now in Constitution is not the Second Amendment. It's not the First Amendment. It's the article that makes everything work, and that's the Electoral College. There are a lot of people that would really, 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 really like to get rid of the Electoral College right now.
Yeah,
I think they will eventually get their way.
It's very true. Like, so I think we need to do some segments revisiting the Federalist Paper arguments for the Electoral College.
So
as well
Jefferson,
as the anti-Federalist, anything against it.
What?
Matt is shooting himself in the head right now, but this is it's an essential thing that
let us have a serious segment.
I know. I agree with you on
That's
the Electoral
why my
College.
mouth is shut right now.
Just broadly,
the Electoral College protects us. The Electoral College protects us.
But who does it protect? Because the progressives say it's only protecting rural white males, and that makes them mad.
That would be me.
The Electoral College protects...
You're not a rural, and you're barely white.
The Electoral College protects the Republic.
You look Italian to me.
He's very white.
No. I don't think I have any Italian in me at all.
It's the mustache.
The Electoral College protects the Republic and protects the founding ideals of our society.
What the Electoral College tries to do is it tries to blend because again, it comes back down. I know we've all heard it in history class, the small state, big state thing.
Yes.
And so states with a ton, if you divide up votes by state, the states with a ton of population are going to overpower smaller states. And so they tried to find a way. But if you go purely by like a pure representative system, then like one state, one vote, then you're way overpowering. So like then there's a lot of people in big states that don't have a voice.
Someone I follow on Twitter, Lyman Stone Key, he has suggested that a way forward on this is to fix the population disparity in the House of Representatives, which I think is not a terrible idea. I think it could have some unforeseen consequences.
Increase the number of representatives.
What do you mean by population disparity?
We're way behind on the number of representatives we're supposed to have.
Okay.
We're supposed to have, like, at this point, like a couple thousand reps, and we don't have anywhere close to that.
Oh, that's because we'd have to build a bigger building.
There's
not enough seats.
Yeah, I mean, there would have to be major changes, but it would be more.
This is
so
what the
it would be
internet
more.
Can fix
it would
right
be
here.
more democratic within the Republican constraints that the founders set up, if that makes sense.
Republican, not speaking Republican Party, but Republican in the sense of
as
they live in the Republic.
Yeah. And to me, that's a good compromise because we're staying well within constitutional boundaries. We're acknowledging that states are. They're not sovereign anymore. We got rid of that in 1865 and following.
Yeah.
But their states have distinct political identities. We'll use that as a substitute phrase.
The South will rise again.
And they had diverse desires and needs, right? But if you want to increase the power of populated areas proportionate to their population, which is what the House is supposed to be, because the House is not anywhere close. It's supposed to be the more democratic establishment, but it's not.
Well,
it's still in favor of rural states.
And unfortunately, the Senate has been twisted to be democratic.
When the Senate was originally supposed to be elected by the states and be the representative
was essentially
of the
supposed to be Republican,
but that was done by
the sense of a republic.
Yes, it was.
Yes.
So that's what are you going to do
in more progressive eras? Unfortunately, because people understand how it was designed, and they bought the idea that the senators should be elected too. That's something I've proposed. So I would agree with you, Tombstone. If we increase the number of representatives to lower the population disparity and turned the Senate back to state selection,
repeal the
whether that would be good for conservatives, it might not be, but it would be fair. But that's a whole different conversation.
But again, I think that's because we're coming to this honestly with what's good for the Republic, not what's good for necessarily our political ideology.
Right. Which goes against my new will to power ethos, but
what we need is guillotines. That's what we need.
So anyways,
I knew he was French.
So, but what you got to realize is coming up, the Electoral College, they're going to be wailing away on it with a sledgehammer.
Yes,
because of racism in old dead white Southern people, because the Electoral College, did even originally it favored the rural South as opposed to the industrial North.
Well, partially because of isn't that also what led to the 3/5 compromise and all that stuff, is because of counting population for the purpose of representatives and the Electoral College.
If they had counted slaves as whole people for the purposes of taxation and representation, then the South never would have been defeated, probably.
Which is also a misunderstanding.
Oh yeah, it's huge.
It's a misunderstanding of that compromise, because that compromise actually helped bring about the end of slavery, because it didn't give overwhelming power to the slaveholding states. But nobody's taught that.
I haven't tried to explain that to anybody recently, but my time is yet to come. Anyways, be on the lookout for that, and we should talk about this again sometime.
Let me just give two more.
Mathis go over this from this poll.
So 48% believe hate speech should be illegal. 48%. Hate speech is not defined. We left that up to the individual participant.
Yeah. Welcome to millennials.
Okay, but think about that. Forget even millennials. So just walk up to, like, I don't know, your grandparents or your parents.
Up to someone watching Fox News.
Yeah, just walk up to some decent person who's mainly apolitical and ask them, "Do you think hate speech should be illegal?"
And they're going to say no.
I think
they're going to say yes.
They're going to say
be
yes.
Illegal. Yeah.
Because their gut reaction is That's an evil thing. What, again, it's not defined. So whatever they put in their mindset for hate speech, they're like, that's an awful thing. It should be against the law to call somebody that, because we've been so conditioned that societal mean things should be illegal.
This is why it is so important to have, that you're teaching children all of this stuff on why our country is the way it is. Here are the founding documents. Here are the amendments. Here are, everything, so you understand this is what we're encompassing,
and not right what now, they are.
It's right now. It's
why?
Just what it. Right. Because right now it's whatever you want to define as hate speech or whatever it is, or the newest thing is, it doesn't mean what it used to mean back in the day.
Yeah,
I can't stand that explanation for stuff.
And if you just teach free speech and right to own guns and right from unreasonable search and seizure, whatever, if you just teach what it is and not why those specific things were laid down, and also the scope of those things, that's something else that this survey gets into, is that yes, there should be free speech, but no, you shouldn't be free from consequences of your free speech, societal consequences. The First Amendment only limits federal government blocking of your free speech. It does not. It does not.
You're going to not get punched in the face for it.
Let me give you the last stat here, because that's critically important to what you guys are saying. 80% don't know what the First Amendment really protects.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Those polled believe this statement is true. The First Amendment allows anyone to say that their opinion no matter what, and they are protected by law from any consequences of those thoughts and actions.
Do you guys know who came out yesterday and said he didn't think that not yesterday, it was last week, he didn't think that false statements were constitutionally protected? You want to take a wild guess?
No. Joe Biden.
No, good guess though. Nate Silver.
Oh. Who's Nate Silver?
The pollster.
Nate Silver was famous. He was famous for predicting that I think Obama would get elected. And he's
yes.
Wait,
but it's one of those classic, he's supposed to be one of those smart set, and he's dumb as a brick. It just cracks me up. What'd you say, Ben?
I said, is he the guy that wrote The Simpsons?
No.
Oh man.
Good guess though.
I don't think this is going to go anywhere.
I don't know. A lot of people are dumb.
Civics,
Matt Iglesias didn't know that Miami was constrained by the Everglades.
Guys, did you see this other question here, Mathis?
Mountains.
Go ahead, read it to us. Read it to us, Jeff.
I was just thrown off by Oslin's statement there. So here's one. Should the government restrict the views and speech of the following groups? And then they list through, it says, please check all groups that you think should have their free speech restricted. So they've got racists, neo-Nazis, radical Islamists, Holocaust deniers, anti-vaccine advocates, and climate change deniers. Those are the groups. And then they have all of these or none of these.
I love how they've grouped anti-vaxxers.
Yeah, with all these other things. Or climate change
like a very,
with racist, neo-Nazis, radical Islamists, and Holocaust deniers, which kind of tells you what they think of those two groups. But anyway, so 63% of respondents said that any of these groups should have their views restricted, their speech restricted. It was 52% for racists, 50% for neo-Nazis, 46% for radical Islamists, 35% for Holocaust deniers, 20% for anti-vaccine advocates, and 18% for climate change deniers, and only 37% of respondents said no, none of them should have it restricted. So, I mean, that should be a really concerning stat for us, that 63% of people said everybody just do them all. I think that's the other thing we have to teach, is that free speech means even offensive speech or the speech you don't want to hear. Okay.
Again,
now it depends on the platform.
Consequences about that.
But look at I was just looking at some of the stuff, because we're talking about this as not understanding. Well, maybe this is where they don't understand. It says, is this statement true or false? The Constitution provides the right to free speech. The First Amendment allows anyone to say their opinion no matter what, and they are protected by law from any consequences of saying those thoughts or opinions. 79% of people said true. I think this is where they're getting the statistic to say, okay, people don't understand what it actually protects. I guess it depends on how you're thinking through that statement, because in the context of a lot of this, you're thinking legal. It does say any consequences. And that's where, we're addressing, right. Are you free from societal consequences for your free speech? But anyway, we're down the rabbit hole there. Mathis's eyes have glazed over because we're actually having a really good discussion about
no, I'm looking at the time and looking here.
We're not Kanye talking, so he's...
oh my goodness. Tombstone was the one who brought up Kanye, not me. I mean,
Zinger.
Let's be honest about it.
Let's be like Conray and wrap it up.
Conray? Wait, what?
Conray.
Wow. Just end it. Again, just end it.
My favorite word is the word.
We got an issue in America. Too many good docs are getting out of business. Too many OBGYNs aren't able to practice their love with women all across this country.
Back up, you creep.
And Bernie Sanders might run. Apparently, some folks really want to see a pot-smoking socialist in the White House. We could get a third Obama term after all.
We are back.
Guys, is it fair to say that of these three people, like everyone made such a big deal about George Bush's misspeaks, as we heard there, okay, which were pretty funny.
Yeah.
But
I love his
Biden,
misspeaks.
Bush, and Trump, by far, Bush was the least insane or offensive with his misspeaks, but he was potentially the most
Definitely
trolled over them.
Awkward, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Right.
You guys, by the way, you guys know the Bushes aren't actually from Texas, right?
What?
No, they're from Massachusetts. They're Yaleys.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, like the whole Texas thing is an affectation.
They're just Yaleys.
Them and the
Kennedys.
They're just Yaleys with oil money. Is all it is.
Wow.
Have I blown your mind, Ben?
Brought to you by the Front Porch Show.
All right, so we're rolling politics.
All right, let's go.
Yeah, I'm looking up this whole George Bush thing.
I'm glad I never voted for George Bush.
All right, where are we at?
I vote for George Bush.
Yeah,
I repudiate George Bush and all his works.
Okay, guys.
Did you have an opportunity to vote for George Bush?
No.
Okay, that's
I was too young.
I'm not claiming to be virtuous. I'm just pointing it out that I never voted for.
I thought it was.
But you probably voted for McCain and Romney.
I voted in 2008. I voted for Libertarian.
I did vote for McCain accidentally.
I'm
sorry to hear that.
Paul.
I have voted.
It was pure ignorance.
I have voted for Lindsey Graham once, but I also voted against Lindsey Graham once.
Wow.
I've never voted for Romney. I never voted for McCain.
I didn't vote for Romney.
I won't claim it's ignorance. I didn't vote for either Romney or McCain in the primaries. When it came down to it, I was definitely of the lesser of two evils minds.
I voted for Newt Gingrich in the 2012 primary, and Gingrich blew everybody else out of the water in South Carolina, and he got no traction anywhere else. Zero.
So how are you feeling about Trump at this moment in time, Tombstone?
I mean, I would crawl over a mile of broken glass to vote for Donald Trump.
That's funny. Again.
I love it. Isn't
that the same thing I said last time?
Yes, it is.
What if Kanye doesn't vote for Trump?
Ooh,
then what will you do?
Bless him. Everybody used to vote their conscience.
I thought you would crawl over a mile of broken glass to vote for
everybody
Andrew
needs
Yang,
to realize. Everybody needs to realize that the progressive machine does not give a flying rip about your conscience. They will crush you like a bug when they get the chance. Donald Trump might be the only thing standing between you and them.
That is excellent analysis provided by Tombstone there on the Front Porch.
Trying to be realistic. Listen,
where are we going with
this? It's not 1785. It's 55 AD. We are leaving the Republic and entering the Empire. Okay, it's all going to come apart.
Oh, okay.
It's like asking me if I want to vote for Trump is like asking me if I want to vote
Aaron's
for Julius
eyes are
Caesar.
glazing over again here.
No,
He's like,
I am feeling everything
Y'all are
Tombstone's saying.
depressing me.
It's just depressing
Of course
me
you
too.
are.
But his analysis is
It's like, do you want to vote for the Gracky or do you want to vote for Mark Antony? Like, those are your choices.
I will vote for neither.
Well, how about not a Mark but a Mike? How about a Mike? A Mike Pence.
A Mike. What? You're really gonna make me ask.
You really want us to go to this conversation? Okay, hold on on that thought.
I was just trying to swing to Mike Pence comments on China. I'm not trying to
hold on.
If
Let's
Mike
talk
Pence
about
draw his saber and wave it in the face of Nancy Pelosi, then yes, I'll vote for Mike Pence.
Let's talk about Pence backing Hong Kong first, and then let's go into some political theory.
I actually have very mixed thoughts on Hong Kong.
Then you're taking it a different way than I was really intending to take this segment. But I think we do. I don't know how much we've talked about the NBA and
you guys got to let me and Jeff get our apocalyptic imaginings out.
We talked about it an awful lot.
I'm not going to listen. Just because you have them doesn't mean that I can't make fun of them.
Fair.
Just keep that in mind.
What did you say, Aaron?
No, we talked about the NBA and stuff a lot.
But.
And so
the insanity that's going on here, but we've got some of Trump's comments at a speech that he. Let's see, where was he?
I don't know where he was. I've got Pence here. Pence is allegedly backing Hong Kong, so the Trump administration is seemingly backing Hong Kong right now.
They've been very quiet about it.
They
I think
have
because they don't want to rock the boat too much with the Chinese.
But
because they're trying to get some trade deals done.
But Pence is actually saying stuff now, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think it's quiet. Like I think the Chinese probably know how we feel about it. But I'll be honest with you, I'm very skeptical for us to get involved directly in Hong Kong because
here's all the news.
I don't trust the State Department. I don't trust the CIA.
All of our sports. Or Hong Kong. I'm sorry. China needs to just buy the NBA, buy the NFL.
Apparently they already own the NBA. I mean, what would be different if they did own the NBA?
That's frustrating part is that all these guys that are all like truth to power, kneel, fist in the air. Oh, America's so evil and racist, and they just violate everybody's civil rights. And I'm going to inject myself into politics everywhere I can because it's my job. And then, so LeBron, how do you feel about China violating these? I'm just going to shut up and dribble. I don't. We don't talk politics. We don't play basketball. It's like no. You won't shut up and dribble when I want to, but now that it's actual real life civil rights violations, well, I don't know, man. It hurts my paycheck, so I'm gonna be quiet.
Yeah, money talks, man.
Hey, when we're talking $2 to $4 billion, I mean, good grief.
Yeah, it's a huge amount of money, and that's really what this comes down to. Is that China is a huge market, especially for entertainment products, which I would include basketball and football.
Yeah, absolutely,
yeah. But definitely movies. Like a huge amount of movie money is made in China.
No, it's ridiculous,
and a lot of movie investment money originates in China as well, which is why the first time I became aware of this was when the new Red Dawn came out, which was okay, was not as good as the original. It was okay. But everything, it was supposed to be the Chinese invading Oregon or wherever, and they had to change everything to the North Koreans because nobody cares about the North Koreans.
And they did that with Top Gun too. The new Top Gun, they took some of the patches off his jacket.
I saw that. I'm not actually sure that's a thing. It might be. I got to check into it some more.
Okay, well,
we talked some more research because
didn't we? The initial reports are that.
I do remember seeing it, and it very well might be. It would not surprise me.
That was just some boomer noticing that and getting.
I have a soft spot for Tom Cruise.
Oh, that would be why Jeff's concerned.
Tom Cruise is America's greatest diplomat. Anyways.
Yeah. No. Okay. So. Wow.
What did you say, Ben?
I said okay.
That was an odd take.
So
I think Tom Cruise is a Scientologist, and he's very strange.
Well,
but I do really like watching his movies.
Anyone who believes
we should ask Kanye when he's on the show what he feels about this.
Well, we should definitely ask him. I'm kind of impressed that Kanye has dodged the Scientology bullet.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Me too.
Because a lot of people have not dodged that bullet, like Will Smith.
There's a lot of weird Hollywood elites who who are in that whole Scientology.
Anyways, I have no idea why I went down that road. What else do we have here?
I was thinking Pence. I mean, Jeff mentioned this week, theoretically.
Pence.
What did I say? Did I say
theoretically?
Pence? Okay.
Yeah, you said, I'm just catching up. My brain is catching up. I'm firing. I'm now firing. After we've been doing the show for almost 2 hours, I'm now firing on all synapses.
Well, that's good. So theoretically, if Trump were to be ousted from office,
deposed,
and or decided just to sit this one out,
I wish he would.
Sit 2020 out.
I wish he would.
Who would run in his place? And Jeff floated the theory of Pence and Haley, Nikki Haley.
And I heard this.
No, please, no.
And I heard this other places, like floated other places. I wasn't the one that purely came up with this.
Pence and Haley would lose disastrously.
It would be a miserable wreck.
Let's come back. I'll break it down.
Let's come back.
Let's see Tombstone's breakdown.
I'll break it down.
Well, we see that every week.
I did not vote for Trump, but I understand the mind of Trump voters.
Not his mental.
Not the mind of Trump. No, not the mind.
Talking about your mental breakdown.
Can't help you. Can't help you on that one.
Tombstone's on 2D chess.
Checkers.
Ignition. Liftoff.
It depends upon what the meaning of the word is.
Yes.
Teach a child to read, and he or her will be able to pass a literacy test.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
And that's why Mathis thinks
we need another Reagan intro.
Wrapping his arms around Putin.
Mathis thinks he was the one. It's the intro.
Putin is continuing to advance into Korea.
Wrong.
What was it like listening to that live?
We need a bombing begins in 5 minutes Reagan intro. Is what we need.
Ooh, wow, that's a great reference. Write that down. Send that to me. That's a good one.
Why are you going to make me write it down?
You don't have a pencil right there?
Aaron?
No, I don't have anything in front of me right now.
What was it like watching Reagan's movies, Aaron, growing up?
That was so savage. That was so.
Thank you, Karen.
Boom.
Aaron, since Aaron remembers things that were 5 months after he was born, he might remember things that were 20 years before he was born, 30, 50 years before he was born.
Well, I was more of a Marilyn Monroe fan. I was.
Okay. Welcome back to the Front Porch Show, where the inside jokes are numerous and the analysis is highly questionable. Jeff, you were going to lay a proposition on me regarding Mike Pence.
So I had heard some different analysis throughout the week that people were talking, okay, what if we come back and the beginning of the year, this impeachment thing goes down, there's some squishy Republicans in the Senate, or let's say there is a smoking gun. Let's say that they actually do find evidence, and so enough Republicans are fine voting, and so Trump gets impeached.
Ooh.
Where does it go from there?
He has to be removed after he's impeached, though.
True.
So they remove him.
But let's say it is. They remove him.
I mean,
he's out. So Pence is now president.
But he wasn't removed. But he was also a lame duck.
It comes down. Well, and it comes down to the removal and how they vote and like that. But the point being, now Pence is president, and so it's too late in the game for like a primary challenger or something to run. Essentially, Pence is president because Trump's been removed, and if the Republicans are going to run anybody, they're going to run Pence. So who's his running mate, and how does that fare, and how does that affect the voters?
So you said You said the H word a minute ago.
That was one of the names in that conversation that was floated, was Nikki Haley running as Pence's vice president.
My gut check on Nikki Haley is I'm glad she's found a productive role in the Trump administration, or did, because she's gone now. I do not want her to run for president or vice president.
And what are your qualms on
why?
I don't know if I can say it out loud on the show. It has to do with the Confederate memorial in front of the State House.
Well, explain that debacle. Explain
super
that.
vague about that. Yeah.
Explain what happened.
Might as well just go.
So, because people don't need to look it up.
There was so not many people know the State House, the South Carolina State House in Columbia is a Civil War. It is a Civil War battle site. There was an actual battle fought literally on the steps of the State House.
Yep.
The State House has battle damage where cannonballs hit it. It's got granite siding. So there is a Confederate memorial, a Confederate War memorial out front of the State House, and there was a Confederate battle flag there, flying there as part of the memorial. And after the whole Dylan Roof thing, which was absolutely catastrophically awful, the progressive machine seized upon that flag and taking it down as their ideological pound of flesh, to basically punish South Carolina for allowing Dylan Roof to become what he became. I don't think I'm overstating that. And so a huge amount of pressure was put on South Carolina in tourism terms, and politically, to say, you guys have to take this flag off this memorial. So, like I said, it is a war memorial to the war dead. There's also a memorial to slaves in the same area. But anyway, so Nikki Haley thought about it for like 2 days, and she said, "We're taking it down." So they took it down.
So basically, your whole opposition to her stems from her capitulating on that issue.
That and the fact that and this is a more broad assessment. She's a product of the GOP establishment. She does not really have any renegade bona fides whatsoever.
Correct.
Does that make sense?
And I think Pence is that's not really a criticism of her per se. It's just more like an assessment of the reality. It's an analysis of where she's at. Yes. What you would have in a Pence Haley ticket would be,
and Pence does not have any renegade bona fides either, except that he comes from Indiana, which is like the most evangelical state in the entire union.
Correct. I mean, we're not talking the conservative dream ticket. We're not talking George Washington and Thomas Jefferson got together and ran again or something.
Right.
Like we're talking, we are talking, conservative leaning establishment GOP. It would essentially be moving the Republican Party back into like the 90s.
Yeah.
If you had Pence and Haley.
So what you've put your finger on is the crucial question here, is that the Republican Party is really two parties, and that the base does not really follow the leadership. In fact, the base hates the leadership. The base hates Paul Ryan. The base barely tolerates Lindsey Graham. They hated John McCain.
Around anymore.
They hate Mitt Romney, which Mitt Romney was never really a leader, but he wanted to be a leader.
He still wants to be a leader.
Who else do they hate? I honestly feel like...
What's his name? Pierre Delecto or whatever?
Pierre Delecto. Oh, my goodness.
That's a different thing. But
okay.
Do you guys see the proposition? The point is if that were to happen...
Yeah.
I came in the middle of some of the analysis, but the discussion was along the lines of what would Trump voters do? Would the loss of Trump voters versus the gain of never Trumpers? How would it all play out? And there was no they would guaranteed win.
They could win,
but no, that was not the analysis either, though, by some people who are heavily involved in this kind of stuff.
So what did Steve have to say?
So some of what Steve Deace had to say, and I didn't catch all of it. Like I said, I came in the middle of it. There was some analysis along the lines of the fact that because there'd be a cooling off period, he obviously you would have, and let me tell you, he savages some of the Fox News watchers and the Cheeto Jesus Saves crowd like pretty bad, like you guys like fair. Like we like to, which I think is fair. But he said you'd have a few days where you have the Fox News watchers, the Hannity people that are just ticked off and I'm done with whatever. But where else are those? The proposition was this: because you're mad, you're a MAGA person,
and MAGA is going to have to stick together.
Because you're mad that Trump got ousted, you're going to go vote for a straight up diehard communist socialist. You're going to vote for Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders or whoever gets spit out of that crazy thing.
That's actually a good point, because the outrage that would be generated by that episode would fuel whoever came next. But I think it would be best if that person could carry the Trump mantle.
True, it would be best, but because you would have the intervening months for them to get over the butthurt from it, and then you would have, the other side just running insane leftism.
Yeah,
and then
all they got to do is not be crazy.
You would gain back some of the other never Trumpers. So you would gain back some of the Mitt Romney, Jeff Flake, never Trump crowd.
Yeah. So this is actually a good question I have. I don't know. I wonder on the ground how many never Trumpers have become never Republicans because they now hate the party. I know there's a lot of people in the media that are like that, but I don't know how many people there are actually on the ground.
That's true. So essentially, that was the analysis: is both the never Trump and the ultimate pro Trump crowd.
There could be a unification ticket.
Have they both become never GOP, or can they reconcile those differences once he's gone?
I would say Trumpites are definitely susceptible to come back to the GOP even in a post-Trump era, but depending on the candidate, they would have to feel like the candidate is really going to sling the sword.
And the candidate can't be weak, and that was the other analysis. Is all right,
And I do not think Pence is a strong national candidate. I do not think he has the guts.
I don't think he has the guts to say some of the stuff he needs to say. Now, in an election, he may run that way. He might run saying some of the stuff in the election. It might revert back to the typical Republican of once you're in office, you don't follow through on it. Now, I will say
Pence might have the opposite problem of Trump. He might be too Christian. He may not be too Christian for the base, but he is way too Christian for the media. Although it doesn't really matter because they're going to gig whoever runs anyways.
Exactly.
I foresee vicious attacks on Pence.
Correct.
And Kanye.
So here,
and Kanye.
So Pence and Kanye. So here's the. Could you vote?
I'd vote for that.
I'd vote for that.
Not for that ticket. Tombstone. You said you didn't vote Romney.
No.
Could you vote for a Pence Haley ticket or a Pence ticket with somebody else?
I probably would vote.
I think I could vote for that better than I could have voted for McCain or I could have voted for Romney. Like I feel like Pence is more toward my side of the Republican Party than the other two were.
But
I don't think he's any uber conservative savior.
I'm way more in love with my opinion than I'm in love with my vote, if that makes any sense. Because my vote doesn't really count in South Carolina. It just doesn't really matter. If I was in a different state, it might be different. But I don't know. But to get more directly at the heart of what you're talking about, like I do not know. Thank you, Ben. Ben is posting the South will rise again memes. I can't read the subtext on that one.
It says false. The South is not an object, therefore it cannot rise. Okay, continue with your thoughts, Tombstone.
Yes, continue with your thoughts.
I really don't know who I would pick today to carry the Trump mantle because it can't be Ted Cruz. Bless his heart.
Nope.
I love that. Love it.
I really don't know. I really don't know who. There is nobody that is quite like him out there. Maybe Mick Mulvaney, but I don't know if Mick Mulvaney is presidential material. Even though he is from South Carolina.
And the fact that there's no one like him is not
like,
necessarily
who the heck is,
I don't know who that is. I have no. You lost me.
He's a congressman from South Carolina he's been like an operations behind the scenes guy for Trump. Behind the guy scene. Yeah. He's been running the Congressional Business Office, and he's actually been dismantling the Center for Consumer Protection. So,
I like it already.
Interesting.
Mulvaney.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mulvaney is loathed by the Democrats, and I think he's a decent politician for factors of being a politician, but I don't know if he's presidential. He seems to be more of a details operations guy than Trump, whereas Trump is a gunslinger, shoot from the hip.
Yes.
So
Mulvaney's more like leave me alone, let me work.
He's like beat it into him.
My thing,
yeah.
I've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again. I can't vote for Trump. I don't think I could vote for a Pence Haley ticket.
No one thought you would.
More
you
research
go to the
on all this.
conventions where there's 300-pound naked men dancing on stage, and somehow think that's a political philosophy.
Aaron, you may never live that down.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
But really, is that any worse of a spectacle than Trump? Really?
Listen,
probably not.
Seriously,
if you're completely honest, probably not.
The main difference between that and Trump is nobody cares if Trump clowns themselves, whereas libertarians should be trying to act serious and they're not. Trump should be trying to act serious, but apparently nobody really cares.
No.
So here's the thing. Last time I bounced back and forth daily. Last time I decided I could not vote for Trump.
Broken glass, Jeff.
Honestly, this time around, there are days I would go out and vote early and often for him, and there are days that I'm like, I can't wait till he's out of office. I guess it's going to happen. We'll have where we are when we get to November of 2020.
I'm going to lay some real talk.
Hold on. I have some wisdom here. Mama said there'd be days like this.
All right, here's some real talk. 2020 election is going to be worse than 2016 election because there are not a lot of questions on the table. We know exactly what Trump is, and so if you want to vote for Trump, you got to be prepared to ignore the haters because there will be haters. How many friendships were ended in 2016? How many?
Too many. It was worse.
I would guess
all four.
It's
all
approximately
four of these ones right here.
140,382 million.
Thank you.
Approximately.
It was worse than Civil War I.
You're welcome.
It was worse than Civil War I.
I don't know about that. All I'm saying is it's going to be bad. There will be consequences. There will be consequences for Trump voters because the people that are against Trump voters have said so. People I've been reading for years. If you support Trump, there will be consequences.
It's so ridiculous. It's so absolutely ridiculous.
It's not ridiculous if you have an apocalyptic view of American politics and you believe that politics is a supreme moral agency.
Yeah, it's a cult-like mentality, and the other side is the devil.
And it's not, and it's obviously not a left-right thing. I think
you have a moral obligation to wipe out the enemy. Essentially,
the left has the moral high ground in this country. I've been told to wrap it up. That's all I have to say. Thank you for indulging me.
Hey, anytime. That's what the show's about.
It will get much worse.
Right there.
It will get much worse before it gets better. I guarantee it. Welcome back to yet another wonderful segment of the Front Porch Show. I am your humble host, Tombstone, with Aaron and Ozman. We are interviewing for this segment author Brian Niemeier. Hopefully I said your name right, Brian. I'm sorry. I forgot to check before we started.
You did. Congratulations.
Yay. Okay.
Yes.
German names are kind of my specialty, so... So Brian, you're a science fiction fantasy. Your wiki says you're a science fiction horror author. I'm not sure exactly what that means. Is that how you classify yourself, or what would you say your specialty is?
Right. Well, I'm adjacent to the pulp revolution or pulp revival movement, hashtag pulprev, and we came to the conclusion that genre fiction as a whole has largely reached a dead end in the West. And it really took a wrong turn around the 1930s with the end of the pulp era, because before that, science fiction, which encompassed what we would call science fiction, fantasy, and horror, they didn't distinguish with hard and fast lines between the genres. was just huge. Shows like the Shadow radio show and the Italian novels like the John Carter series by Edgar Rice Burroughs and Robert E. Howard's Conan were huge.
Right. So you're a bit of a literature historian as well. So the audience may not know, some of them probably will know, but there is I would say that fiction is a absolutely hotbed of conflict in the culture war that we're in.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So where would you say your role in that is? Like, where are you headed? What are you trying to achieve? Besides making awesome books.
Well, I'm trying to create awesome books first and foremost to entertain audiences, because if you look at the material that's coming out of Legacy Pub, out of old New York publishing, they are not trying to entertain most people. You know, they're just virtue signaling to each other in a small coastal bubble clique.
Right.
So I'm trying to entertain in the tradition of the old pulps, which did skew genre lines, but in so doing, that strikes a blow in the culture war, because propagandizing through taking hold of mass media is how the death cult has managed to get a stranglehold over culture.
Right. And when you say the death cult, you're talking about the progressive machine.
Yeah. The vampire castle, you know, the powers that be, whatever name you want to call it. Yeah.
The cathedral. So, which is a terrible term, but it seems to be one most people are familiar with. Tell us about the stuff that you've written, and if you can, tell us one thing that you've really enjoyed that you've written that you would want the audience to check out.
Sure. Well, my first book was Ethereal, and it's Space Pirates Go to Hell. So imagine Event Horizon meets Dante's Inferno.
Okay.
And
I'm down. You've got me now.
All right. I'm interested.
Yeah. So we've got space pirates on essentially magically powered spaceships flown by space wizards. We've got them rebelling against this ubiquitous, all-powerful guild that controls just all trade in known space. And so to get around it, they try to strike out into areas that aren't controlled by the guild, end up in actual hell.
Okay.
And yeah, these are not squeaky clean white hats, so they end up having to do battle with and occasionally deal with the denizens there in order to survive and get home.
Tell me the title one more time.
Ethereal. So it's like ethereal with an N at the beginning.
Got it. Okay. So when I messaged you earlier this week, I asked you for one book I should read. Before we did the interview, you told me to buy your first Combat X-Frame book, which I did. I did not get through it because time has been short, but I have enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to getting into it more. Can you tell us a little bit about that one as well?
Yeah, so as Ethereal kicked off my award-winning Soul Cycle series, which concluded last year, I wanted to do something different for my next series, and so I thought, okay, I'm just going to go full science fiction. I'm going to write about giant robots. So Comet Frame Exceed is Mobile Suit Gundam meets Tom Clancy.
Awesome.
It's a mecha military thriller.
I get that reference there.
Aaron is sitting here frantically Googling some of the things you're talking about.
I am.
Because he doesn't read very much. Bless his heart.
I read nonfiction. I read nonfiction. Yeah.
So
I read a lot.
There's not much we can do to help his tiny shriveled soul.
What can I say? I have no adventure.
That's a good jumping off. That's a good jumping off point, because that is what you find in our thing is a lot of men, especially who have given up on genre fiction. And I don't blame you, because people like us have been specifically weeded out. Like, we've been told in no uncertain terms that we are not their audience. How often did we hear that, like in Gamergate?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right.
So the majority of mainstream genre fiction is written by and for women.
Yep. Barnes and Noble, man. You walk in and it's women. It's books for women from wall to wall, pretty much.
Yeah, and again, it's not them chasing market trends. It's them trying to create a market trend, because, again, stuff like Flash Gordon and Doc Samson and The Shadow and Tarzan were monsters. Yeah.
Yes.
Back
Those
in the
are
day.
all great. Those are all great.
Awesome.
All right, so
yeah, we wouldn't have Star Wars if not for those.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's part of what I'm doing. I'm trying to bring us back. I'm trying to get men engaged in reading fiction again.
So, talking about where men sort of fit into the culture right now, you wrote an extremely depressing yet very good short story called A Gen Y Tale. Kairos, A Gen Y Tale. No, I'm sorry. I was reading the header on the page. Kairos is the name of your blog. A Gen Y Tale is the name of the story. Okay. So it's called A Gen Y Tale, and I'll summarize it without trying to give it away, but it basically, you follow the short and sad life of a young man who grows up in the 90s, goes to college, gets a degree, gets a job that he doesn't like, gets married, gets divorced, and he ends up being sort of supernaturally subsumed back into his old life, which no longer exists. So what made you want to write the story? I'm guessing it was probably percolating for a while, but I wonder if there's anything in particular that said, okay, I've got to set this down to paper and get it out there, because it really spoke to me. Now, I do got to tell you this, though, before you start. Aaron and Ben and I are atypical Gen Y, what you would call Gen Y, because we all grew up in intact homes. We went to Christian school, and we're all married and have kids. But I know a lot of people just like Scott in your story. So I empathize very strongly, and I see it. You see it every day. So what put you in the mind to work on this story?
Well, first of all, that's what I hear again and again from readers of the story. They say, "Oh my gosh, you described at least 3 of my friends I had in high school or grade school or college. Were you spying on us that whole time?" Like, yeah, where you described me until a couple years ago and I got my act together. Mm-hmm. Right? Or I'm still struggling through this. And honestly, I'm going to dispel some of the illusion here. Being a writer is just like any other trade, like being a carpenter or a plumber. So I have tools and I have materials and I put them together in the right order for an effect. So honestly, the genesis of a Gen Y Tale was, I got up one day like, I got to do a blog post, because I operate under the principle you've got to give them something every day. So 5 days a week, I do a blog post, rain or shine.
I admire that immensely, by the way, because I know writing is not easy. I'm sure it's a little easier once you're in the habit, but I'm one of those people. I'm sure you met a million that is pretty good at writing, but to actually sit down and do it is a huge pain in the tuchus. So props to you.
Thank you. Yeah, as Aristotle said, you're defined by what you do.
Yeah.
So what is a pianist? A pianist is someone who sits down and plays the piano with facility.
Yep.
So yeah, that if you're a writer, you're right. That makes you a writer. So I had nothing. I had no inspiration. I had no ideas. There was really nothing in the news I wanted to talk about. So I just said, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to make myself do this. So it was just a sheer force of will effort. And the reason I chose my subject matter is I've written a few pieces on the real generational divide before, and pointed out how, like, the silent generation, Generation Jones and Generation Y, get passed over in the war between like the boomers and Gen X and the Zoomers.
If we can pause just a moment, tell me about Generation Jones. That's not one I'm familiar with.
Oh, sure. No problem. Generation Jones is the generation right after the boomers. So they're the younger siblings of the boomers largely. So people born like around 1958 to 68. So right between Gen X and the boomers.
Okay, I got you.
And I didn't come up with this. I mean, the demographers mentioned this cohort exists, and they're called Generation Jones because they're defined by their jonesing for what the boomers have.
I get that.
All right.
My dad, not that I'd really put my dad metaphysically into that category, but age gap wise, he's not a true boomer. He's not a hippie. He was born in late 50s. But you know, he's pretty normal working class dude, you know, who likes to work. He doesn't have any hippie tendencies in the least, or no entitlement, I guess would be the better way to say it.
Right. Yeah. Anytime I hear someone say, "Yeah, you know, my folks are cool boomers," and like they were born in '59. Well, they're not boomers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the Gen Y, millennial, Gen X, you were going somewhere on that.
Yeah. To break it down, what I found was that really after the silent generation, it no longer makes sense to define a sociological generation, you know, not a biological generation, but in terms of formative experience and outlook, as an arbitrary 20-year cycle. Okay.
Okay.
With the speed of social, well, I would honestly call it a degeneration, but the speed of social change with mass media, television, et cetera, 10 years makes more sense. Because, again, honestly, can you honestly say that someone who grew up with the internet and smartphones being everywhere in everyday facet of life and having no knowledge of the Cold War is going to have anything like the same formative experience as someone who grew up still with TV and during the threat of nuclear annihilation?
Yeah. I tell people, so I was born in 1987, my dad was born in 1960. I tell people that I feel closer to my dad generationally than I do to my sister, who's 9 years younger than I am.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the generational divide, because you're Gen Y, your sister's Gen X, and your dad is Generation Jones.
Yeah.
It's an interesting distinction between how short that time frame has become just because of technology. And I can definitely see that. You know, growing up, we were at the breaking edge of, hey, here's the early internet, and not having computers, not having, you know, TV just everywhere. You know, you have everything you need in the palm of your hand. And then you see kids who it's, you know, they have everything, you know, like 7-year-olds are walking around with iPhones. You know, that it's a huge gap between that. And I've never really looked at it in the sense of, you know, those generations are actually getting smaller as far as age-wise, the gaps between them. But, you know, with technology advancing so quickly, it makes sense that's a driving force in that.
Yeah, and I want to clarify something really quick. Did you say your sister was 9 years younger or older than you?
She's 9 years younger than I am.
Okay, she's a millennial. My fault.
Yeah. I caught what you said. I figured you circled back to it, but But yeah.
For the listeners.
So relative to your story, you captured this moment in time where we grew up outside with some electronics, and then as we got older, we spent more time in the video games, especially like the role-playing video games like WoW and Diablo. And I didn't play board games. I played computer games, mostly not like role-playing games, other stuff. But
Age of Empires.
And then you kind of when you're in Age of Empires, exactly. And then when you hit your college age, or right after college, you kind of hit that point where you've actually got a job, you actually got money, you can indulge yourself, you don't have a lot of responsibility. And then apparently a lot of Gen Y guys are getting married, and then their marriages are failing, or they're not having kids, and they're experiencing this malaise.
Yeah.
So you spoke to that really, really well. Like, where did Scott go wrong in the story? Like, what was his major malfunction?
Scott's major malfunction was in being unable to break out of that purely materialist mold. And what he was searching for wasn't fun. It wasn't even male friendship. It was meaning.
Yeah.
His story
this is not an emotional struggle. This is a spiritual, metaphysical struggle.
Yes. Exactly, and that's why it's a cautionary tale.
Which a lot of millennials, I would say Gen Y too, are spiritually completely illiterate. They have not been given the tools to process that.
Yes, so it's not entirely Scott's fault, because he lacked the guidance necessary for his spiritual formation, because his boomer parents never gave it to him. They decided, let him decide for himself. That's
right.
the subtext.
Yeah.
So then it's more or less like a complete kind of coming full circle where you have kind of the hippie generation and everybody giving the kids everything, but yet not demanding things from them that they should.
Because you can't, as a man, especially as a man, I don't speak to the women, but as a man, if everything is given to you and you never struggle to become accepted in the world in a meaningful physical and emotional way, then you cannot mature. You cannot break out of your fence, your mold. You can't do it.
Right. It's benign neglect.
Yes, that's a great phrase.
Yes. Yeah, that's that's a very good way of describing it.
So,
whereas Xers suffered more malicious neglect. The boomers
what do you mean by that? What do you see that because I don't have a lot of Gen X friends. When you say malicious neglect, like what kind of stuff are you talking about?
Yeah. Okay. Well, from my perspective, I have always had more older friends,
right?
Because I related to them more easily than my own cohort. And what my Gen X readers also told me is that the way their boomer parents treated them was in sometimes not so subtle ways, reminding them, oh, well, having you is the reason I can't have fun anymore. You're limiting my personal development. You're limiting my career. And just
I think that mode of thought still exists. It's completely pernicious. I hate it.
And I think that's why we get a lot of you still have the younger generation, like even if you're being a bad parent, they're still watching you, and that's what that's what they're learning from. Like my kids are watching me every day, and more or less they pick up always on things that I never want them to pick up on.
It's always the bad thing.
And it's always the bad things that I see in myself.
But in your true spiritual state absolutely bleeds over to your kids. Like, you cannot. You might even hide it from your wife. You can't hide it from your kids.
Right.
Not for long.
Right. And then it just mirrors, and it's a wonder that it's coming back. It's all coming to roost now, and you have this whole generation that's just completely failing because they have not been set up to be able to.
Yeah. Not
completely their fault, but they've been set up in ways of not knowing how to live as a person should,
So, Brian, since you used the phrase death cult, I'll send you a link when we're done we did an interview with Robia Scott, who played the bad guy in the Unplanned movie. I don't know if you saw it. But you should go see it if you haven't seen it. But we talk about...
Yeah, not yet.
Oh, you should definitely watch it. It's quite good. It's unforgettable. Very difficult to watch, but it's
the book is very, very good too.
Okay.
But we talk about that whole aspect. But I guess what I'm driving at is, and what you've talked about in your Twitter and so on, is like the world, the United States in particular, and the world is becoming more of an overtly spiritually hostile place. And again, you have so many young men, and I'm thinking here actually more of the millennials and Gen Z, especially the extremely online kids that are LARPing as different things. Ben knows what I'm talking about. Like they don't have the tools. They don't have the tools to survive in a world that is spiritually trying to devour them.
Right.
And that's hard to watch. I'm really glad that you're doing your work and writing your books and stuff, because that's a great outreach.
Thanks. Yeah, I've had boomers tell me, "Oh, there's no Gen Y. Gen Y is just what millennials who are ashamed of the latter half of their cohort call themselves."
I mean, to be fair, we are ashamed.
Well, but we're not ashamed of Gen Y because, I define Gen Y as people born 79 to 89. No one born in 1980 is ashamed of people born in 1985.
Oh, right. No, you're right.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. But, for someone in Gen Y, millennials come up as freaking space aliens. I mean, they're just
that's how it feels.
Yeah. We're not the same at all.
Space aliens.
Such a great thought. Yeah.
I mean, I really feel like my sister and I are inhabiting two different universes, and not to throw shade on my poor sister or on my poor parents, but she also grew up with a much different level of privilege. Privilege may not be the right word. Privilege may be a terrible word, but she grew up with more stuff, more money and more stuff. And she didn't suffer. She did not suffer like I did back in the mid to late 90s. You know, when she was
you had to walk uphill both ways.
I
right?
did. I had to walk uphill both ways to watch Arthur at 4:00 on PBS. So actually, we weren't allowed to watch Arthur. That's a whole different conversation.
Well,
anyway,
the difficult
you know what I
experience
mean.
is. Yeah, I like to say that Gen Y were raised on the Truman Show.
Okay.
Okay. Which I still haven't seen.
Wait, what?
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh man,
I did watch.
You know the concept, right?
What's that?
You know the premise, right?
Yes, I'm familiar with the premise. I actually, because I was reading Moldbug, and Moldbug references it in the first chapter of Open Letter to an Open-Minded Progressive. So I went and watched the last 5 minutes of it, so I know what happens at the end, where he breaks.
Yeah, that's all. And that happened. That last 5 minutes happened to everyone in our cohort.
Yeah.
Where suddenly we realized, hey, wait, this perpetual golden afternoon of colorful plastic toys and flickering video images and snack food is a lie. It was an artificial construct, and the real world outside is like Logan's Run. It's just
bugged by reality is the phrase they use to describe millennials. Probably Gen Y as well, but
yeah, Gen Y more so because millennials actually tend to embrace it.
Yeah,
that's right. The key difference is Gen Y is defined by loss and nostalgia, and the millennials tend to embrace the idea that anything that happened before them is problematic and needs to be destroyed.
Yeah, that's actually true. I would actually say that's true. Millennials tend to be totalitarian in their outlook and their ideological moral outlook, which is terrifying.
So what do you see as being the solution to help people break out of this mindset or worldview that they have that's this false world that's propped up?
Yeah, great question. And luckily, I do have some field results on attempts to do this. And I will say that sadly, we haven't really figured out how to crack the millennial problem yet. But as far as Gen Y, there does seem to be a solid remnant of us that can break out of the shell. Okay, so the number one problem to solving this spiritual disease is every member of Gen Y is in this nostalgia cocoon that he has made. And it's made of these retro games. It's made of attachment to big genre brands that are now zombie skin suits seeking to devour him.
You're speaking of Star Wars.
Yeah, and I'm now courting a concept my fellow author Raul Leonza came up with called Brand Zero, where he just said, I'm not going to talk about this stuff anymore.
I actually meant to ask you about that, because this is a pretty radical take on defeating lousy culture.
Yeah, and this is how we do it. I mean, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be like cauterizing a wound at first, but you got to suck the air out of this stuff, because even when you get people who say, oh yeah, I hate the new Star Wars, I hate the new Avengers movie, but that's why I've got to do this series of hour-long YouTube videos dissecting it in minute detail so people know how bad it is.
Right.
People know how bad it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't care about the quality. They go for the nostalgia, and then they walk out dead-eyed, forgetting having seen anything. Right. It was so incomprehensible.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've got to break that.
Interesting.
And are you looking at doing the same thing in fiction as well, like not drawing attention to really crappy genre fiction and just like going for your own thing full board, abandoning traditional publishing and
getting rid of the sparkling vampires?
Yeah.
Oh, they make it so easy that it's almost impossible not to do, because I mean, in my nook here, in my sector, Old Pub is dead. It's a dead man walking. It's just not broke yet. Like you mentioned, you go into Barnes & Noble, and it's more of a toy store and stationery store than a bookstore. Yeah, they're on their last legs.
Oh, have you looked in the kids section of Barnes & Noble recently?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's bad. It's really bad. Ben, you're making faces over there.
Oh, we don't have any of those anywhere near us.
Oh,
they've all closed up. So I haven't been to one probably in 5 years.
People are ahead of the game over there, shutting down Barnes and Nobles.
What's a bookstore?
Yeah, right.
Aaron lives in northeast Nebraska. They don't know how to.
I live in the middle of nowhere. We have Amazon.
Yeah, well, exactly, and that's one area where big tech works in our favor, at least in terms of books, because Old Pub is not in the storytelling business; they're in the lumber business. They survive on their paper monopoly cartel, and Amazon, Barnes and Noble is the last vestige of that distribution monopoly. And when their paper distribution goes, when the last Barnes & Noble goes, they're done.
Yeah.
And they know it. And Amazon is not helping them. Amazon is actually hindering them. It's trying to kill them off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because Amazon will still print anything you want for I don't know what it is, like a 50 or 60% cut, right?
40.
40. Okay. That's pretty. I mean, that's pretty steep. It's not any worse than TradPub, though, is it?
It's far better. Oh, Amazon's terms are far better than TradPub.
Okay.
So on an ebook, with the boilerplate, non-negotiable TradPub contract, the author gets like 15% of cover price net. That's what you net.
Wow.
On a book, it can be like 8 to 15%.
Okay.
So it's far better because I get 70% on an ebook.
Gotcha.
Nice.
Well, Brian, Brian, I really appreciate you coming on. I'm really excited for what you're getting done and what your fellow travelers like John Delaroz and those guys are getting done. I know you're friends with Larry Correa on Facebook. I don't know if you ever talk with him, but Larry is actually my introduction to this whole sphere of making awesome new fiction that's not bound by traditional pipelines and so on. I've been a fan of Larry since I think 2008, 2007, something like that.
Sure. Same here.
So that's cool. I mean, Larry's been wildly successful, and I hope that you are as well. I guess you're already writing full time, right?
Yeah. This is my job.
That's fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic.
Thanks to Larry because he book bombed in Ethereal.
Okay. Well, that's probably where I've seen the title. Then I need to go get a copy of it.
Brian, where can we check out your stuff?
You can check out my stuff on my Amazon page. Just type in Brian Niemeier or search for the title of any of my books, and that's like Ethereal or Frame Exceed.
That's Niemeier.
Right.
Okay, perfect.
As you mentioned, my blog is Kairos, and it's brianniemeier.com.
Perfect.
And I blog there 5 days a week.
All right. We will. What we will do, we'll get this. Get a link to all this stuff on the show page, and then you can share it, and we can share it. But thank you for coming on. Really appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you.
And we would definitely be interested in having you back sometime in the future if you'd like.
Oh, I'd love to come back. Thank you.
We'll probably sit around and cook some soups and eat bread and desserts and just get all fat and sassy.
We eat ribs and whatnot and listen to salsa music. You see where I'm coming from?
Free ponies for all Americans, one of the overlooked issues in America today.
We're back. Final segment of the show. Guys, we have a new segment this week. We decided that there's so many great stories that come out with idiots. We need to have the DA of the Week awards.
DA being district attorney,
meaning dumb
that's
butt of
what
the
I
week.
interpreted it as.
Dumb butt of the week. Otherwise known as
butt doesn't start with
DA of the week. Whatever, Jeff.
Jeff.
I don't
shut
understand.
Up. This is a family-friendly show, but we have the
You
DA
can't
of the
help
week.
it. He's
That's
the
why I don't
youngest.
understand what you're saying.
Nobody's
I don't know
explained
those
it to
words.
him.
It's okay. Ask your mommy.
Yep.
Karen can
Do it.
help you.
I still want to speak to your manager.
Guys, we have the story here out of Illinois. This is contestant number one. Contestant number one for DA of the week, and we're gonna put this on the Facebook page for you guys to vote for the DA of the week. Illinois man with name tattooed on neck gives police false ID. This is Matthew Bushman supposedly gave a false ID and birth date to officers at the Mattoon Police Department who were investigating forgery.
How long did it take them to figure it out?
Well,
That's the
I mean,
question.
when his neck tattoo says Matty B on it.
And why would you do that?
To be
Did you
fair,
forget your
some
name
people
while
get
drinking?
other
What's
people's people get other people's names tattooed on them as a memorial. So it's not just a guarantee that the name on his neck is his name.
Is he planning on dying?
Well,
he's memorializing himself.
I'm just confused why why do you want your
If you're the
name
kind
on
of
your
person
neck?
that would tattoo your name on yourself, then you might be the kind of person that needs to memorialize yourself. Yeah.
It's
He
true.
also has the teardrop by the eye, trying to go for the doesn't that mean he's killed somebody?
No. That's
like
so
that?
okay. So
That's a different thing
we
entirely.
looked that up a couple weeks ago during a break. That is what people who get out of prison claim.
What?
It means the teardrop at the eye means it claims that they killed someone in prison or something, but it doesn't mean that at all.
No.
It doesn't mean that
He's
at all.
just trying to look tough. Not to mention, it doesn't really look like a teardrop. His looks like a comma.
Well, we'll let you look that up on your own, Jeff. The whole teardrop on the eye tattoo.
I don't. I never. No thanks.
Just-
My safe search won't allow it.
Just think Shawshank Redemption.
That's gonna be my next tagline. My safe search won't allow it.
Just think Shawshank Redemption, Jeff.
Nope, I'm good.
And the sisters.
Oh, that was a good movie.
It was. Our next contestant of the week.
Mathis.
No. This week, no, it's not. It's not me. Donald J. Trump suggests he's building miles of wall along the Colorado border.
Which to be totally fair,
he may
should.
be, which would be perfect.
Let's be honest, it's probably not a bad idea.
Hey, New Mexico has the word Mexico in it. I'm just saying.
It does. Should it be old New Mexico, or should it be New Mexico, or just Mexico? Mexico, New Mexico.
Well, if you ask Mexico, it probably should be just Mexico.
Here, guys, listen here.
I like it.
People in my office. I had miners, and I had farmers, and I had builders building homes. And many of them were tough, strong men and women, and almost all of them were crying. They said, "Sir, you've given our life back to us." I did it in Minnesota with the Iron Range. Minnesota, we gave them back the Iron Range. That was closed by President Obama. Someday they'll explain why they closed it. Finest iron ore in the world, they say. I withdrew the United States from the terrible one-sided Paris Climate Accord. It was a total disaster for our country.
Wait, that wasn't the clip. Oh, I played the wrong clip, you guys.
I was like, what does this have to do with anything?
Just note that there's always an open option in this poll for DA of the week, and Mathis is always the open option.
New Mexico, which I think we're going to win. You know why we're going to win New Mexico? Because they want safety on their border. And they didn't have it. And we're building a wall on the border of New Mexico, and we're building a wall in Colorado. We're building a beautiful wall, a big one that really works.
And everyone stands up and claps. Everyone stands up and claps.
That's because they know the score there in Colorado.
Is this like a wall to help prevent hurricanes from hitting Colorado?
No, we nuke the hurricanes.
It's to prevent the weed from leaking out of Colorado, I think.
Oh man, there's days.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to get him back in.
There's days we can smell it here in Nebraska. So yeah, Trump. Yeah, Trump. Oh, Trump. Now look, in Trump's defense, I can't believe I'm going to defend him. Guys, in Trump's defense, speaking before a crowd of people is a very difficult thing. And easy to accidentally say things that aren't true. No, I can't defend him. I can't defend him.
Hashtag George Bush.
Yes, some people, when they're just shooting from the hip, say crazy things and get logistics wrong. You would think
some people are Donald from Queens,
kind of higher positions.
Like earlier in the show when you
pointed out over a year ago, this is Donald from Queens.
Like you earlier in the show when you mistaken Paula White for Beth Moore.
Yeah, I think I did. Although both of them are.
I mean, Colorado and New Mexico are both very big square states.
I said the wrong name.
We've been mistaking Just Jeff for Karen all day
because I pointed it out in the break. I know in the break that I had made the mistake. So.
I know, but I just wanted to bring it up to point out that sometimes in the heat of the moment we accidentally say the wrong things. So maybe that was a Trump situation there, but I don't know.
Building a wall in Colorado when pretty much everybody knows. Well, actually, to be fair, you see all the videos where people do like these questions to random, like they don't even know facts about like World War II or when these different things. And so I guess most people might not even know Colorado's not a border state, but all of a sudden everyone's a genius because they have. I mean, we knew that Colorado was a border state,
but that's because we're nerds. And we also know that there's not 58 states.
What?
So,
57 states.
57 states?
There's 57.
Yeah. What's one or two more?
Three more to go.
What's one or two more states amongst friends? I mean,
seriously,
what does it matter? Guys, I want to close out today with
there could be 57 states.
So vote for that. Vote for that on the Facebook page. We're gonna post that. Last story of the week is out of the metro.co.uk. Hitman hires hitman who hires hitman who hires hitman who hires hitman. Who tells the police?
I don't know that I believe this, by the way.
This is a true story out of
Nobody cares what you believe, Karen.
This is a court in Nanning. Is it Yangtze?
Look at all the guys.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Please tell me these were like ninja hitmen.
Oh, that's like at least so awesome.
Only like two of them even actually look like hitmen.
They should have been ninjas.
So, businessman.
I don't know, the bald guy's kind of getting me.
Businessman.
Although they look like they're standing around in their boxers.
Tan Yui was looking for a hitman to kill competitor Wee Mao, and was willing to pay £218,000 to get the job done.
Man.
So basically, he hired a hitman to take care of the job, who offered it to another hitman at half the original price. The second hitman hired a third hitman. The fourth hitman
sounds like the original guy was vastly overpaid.
Why does the courtroom look like the interior of a 747? Like
that is a good
747.
Question. But then it's China. I don't know.
They have like these like headrest things that you can clean off and stuff like that. Like why is that?
Well,
that's what I want to know.
Those look like airplanes. Let's get to those do look like airplanes.
Let's get to the important stuff here. Forget this hitman.
Right.
I think it's more genius that, so you got to figure most of these guys aren't actually hitmen. And the idea was like, we'll put a Craigslist out for anyone needing a hit. Then I'll just keep half the money and pocket it and pay somebody else to kill somebody. Like the fact that many people have resorted to that kind of Craigslist ad, that's kind of shocking.
Is there like a Craigslist for hitmen?
What is?
It used to be Silk Road, but Silk Road's gone now. So.
I don't even know what that is.
You don't know? Wait, how can you be a libertarian and not know about Silk Road? That's like a plausible deniability,
Tombstone. Plausible deniability.
I've never Google searched it.
His computer fell overboard.
If I ever go to jail, it'll be for associating with you two.
Probably. Let's be honest.
Not the band, but
we would all be sent to jail together, and we would all break out together, just like Shawshank Redemption.
I was thinking
only
more
one
like
guy
The Rock.
escaped in Shawshank Redemption.
Or
I would probably be the one guy.
Can I be Sean Connery?
Prison Break. There you go.
Can we go like The Rock and I can be Sean Connery?
Oh,
if you want.
What a great movie! What a great movie.
It was a good movie.
Tan, who hired the original Hitman, was jailed for 5 years. Z, the first Hitman, was sentenced to 3 years and 6 months. The next two guys, 3 years and 3 months. The next one, 3 years. And the last guy, Ling, who reported it to the police, was sentenced to 2 years and 7 months. Guys, they're
That's
hitmen.
Kind of rough. Like, he reported it to the police. Like, he should have got a way less sentence than that.
You would have thought so.
He should have been like set free.
Then again, think about
also,
it. He's a hitman.
Just halved everybody's. But was he really a hitman? If he
I don't know. That's
reported
a good
it to
question.
the police, like, why do you take the contract and report it to the police? Do you think the police are going to let you keep the money?
Good question. I don't know. Oh, who knows? It's China and it's hitmen. I don't know. I like Ozzy's idea of the ninjas. That's great.
I think that would be awesome. Although I think aren't ninjas Japanese
The
though?
one guy definitely doesn't look like a ninja.
Point. Well,
Which one?
Which one, Jeff?
The one that looks like he could be on the show as far as mass index.
Right.
As
far as dad bod?
Yes, his father figure seems to indicate that he would be a candidate for being a host.
This is the grandpa hitman here.
Oh, so it's hilarious because it looks like my grandfather.
He's the boomer.
It looks like my
He's
grandfather.
the boomer Wait, what?
Wait, what?
Your grandfather was Asian?
Well, he looks like my grandpa, just a little more Asian than my grandpa was.
So we have learned today that Mathis is more cheeseburger, more Asian, and more Native American than Elizabeth Warren.
Do we really have anything else we need to say? I think we're good, guys.
Take us out. We're done.
Guys, check us out wherever you enjoy finding your online content. We'll catch you next week.
Wow.
Bye-bye.
Didn't mess that up at all, did you?
No, not at all. Nailed it. Just like a Pinterest fail.
Wow, that's a rough way to end.
Like a boss, Jeff. Like a boss. Own it!
Shut up, Karen.